All right, well, I lost, and now it's time to pay the punishment. I'm going to be saying every NBA player name of all time. Allah Abdenabi, Zaid Abdul Aziz, Kareem Abdul Jabbar, Maham Abdul Rauf, Tariq Abdul Wahad, Sharif Abdul Rahim, Tom Abernethy, Forrest Abel, John Abramovich, Alex Abrines, Precious Achiuwa, Alex Aker, Don Akerman, Mark Akers, Bud Acton, Quincy AC, Alvin Adams, Don Adams, George Adams, Hassan Adams, Jalen Adams, Jordan Adams, Michael Adams, O'Neal Adams, Ray Adams, Sparky Adams, Steven Adams, Willie Adams, Raphael Addison, Bam Adebayo, Deng Adel, Rick Edelman, Jeff Adrian, Aaron Afalo, Maurice Ager, Mark Aguirre, Blake Gahim, Jake Ahern, Danny Ainge, Matt H., Warren Ajax, Alexis Ajinka, Henry Akin, Josh Akongnon, Devon Akun Purcell, Solomon Alabi, Mark Alare, Gary Alcorn, Santi Aldama, Furkan Aldermir, Cole Aldrich, Lamarcus Aldridge, Chuck Alexinas, Cliff Alexander, Corey Alexander, Courtney Alexander, Gary Alexander, Joe Alexander, Kyle Alexander, Marie Alexander, Tyshawn Alexander, Victor Alexander, Nicole Alexander Walker, Steve Alford, Raleigh Alkins, Bill Allen, Bob Allen, Grayson Allen, Jared Allen, Jerome Allen, Kadeem Allen, Lavoy Allen, Lucius Allen, Malik Allen, Randy Allen, Ray Allen, Tony Allen, Will Allen, Otis Allison, Lance Alfred, Darrell Alums, Morris Ullman, Derek Alston, Rafael Alston, Leonard Alderman, Peter Aluma, Jose Alvarado, Al Alvarez, Bob Alwyn, John Amechi, Ashraf Armaya, Al Farouk Aminu, Ralph Arnston, Lou Amundsen, Bob Anderegg, Chris Anderson, David Anderson, Alan Anderson, Andrew Anderson, Antonio Anderson, Art Anderson, Carl Anderson, Cliff Anderson, Dan Anderson, Derek Anderson, Dwight Anderson, Eric Anderson, Gene Anderson, Cadillac Anderson, JJ Anderson, James Anderson, Jerome Anderson, Justin Anderson, Kenny Anderson, Kim Anderson, Kyle Anderson, Michael Anderson, Nick Anderson, Rich Anderson, Ron Anderson, Ryan Anderson, Shandon Anderson, Willie Anderson, Welly Anderzunas, Ernie Andres, Martinez, Andres Sukufcius, Don Anelak, Ike Aniboju, Michael Ansley, Chris Ansley, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kostas Antetokounmpo, Thanasis Antetokounmpo, Carmelo Anthony, Cole Anthony, Greg Anthony, Joe Anthony, Paul Anthony, Perot Antic, Clyde Anton, OJ Anunoby, Keith Aplig, Rafael Arujo, Stacy Arsenal, Gary Archibald, Nate Archibald, Robert Archibald, Ryan R.C. I should know this. He went to Villanova. Ryan R.C. Diacono. I forget. Maybe he went to, I don't know. Jim Ard, Gilbert Arenas, Trevor Reza, Paul Arzin, Joe R. Laukas, BJ Armstrong, Bob Armstrong, Brandon Armstrong, Curly Armstrong, Daryl Armstrong, Hilton Armstrong, Scotty Armstrong, Tate Armstrong, Fred Arnett, Jesse Arnell, Jay Arnett, Bob Arnzen, Stan Arnzen, Carlos Arroyo, Ron Artest, Daryl Arthur, John Arthurs, Jamil Artist, Bill Ash, Omar Astik, Vincent Askew, Keith Eskins, Don Asmonga, Dick Alta, Chucky Atkins, Al Littles, Chet Albunchin, Stacy Augman, DJ Augustin, James Augustine, Isaac Austin, John Austin, Ken Austin, Carl Austing, Denny Avjida, Anthony Event, Bird Averit, William Avery, Dennis Altre, Joel Ayayi, Gustavo Ayon, Jeff Arias, DeAndre Ayton, Kalina Azubwik, Yudoko Azibwik. And that's it for the A's. Time for the B's. Chris Babb, Luke Babbitt, Milos Babbage, Johnny Batch, Dwayne Bacon, Henry Bacon, Jim Beachtold, Carl Bayer, Dalibor Bagarich, John Bagley, Marvin Bagley III, Carl Bailey, Gus Bailey, James Bailey, Thurf Bailey, Toby Bailey, Frank Bard, Cameron Barstow, Bob Baker, Jimmy Baker, Mark Baker, Maurice Baker, Norm Baker, Ron Baker, Vin Baker, Art Baker Otis, Wade Baldwin IV, Ronaldo Bakeman, Cedric Ball, Herb Ball, LaMelo Ball, Lonzo Ball, Greg Ballard, Herschel Baltimore, Mohammed Mo Bamba, Desmond Bain, Gene Banks, Marcus Banks, Walker Banks, Ken Bannister, Mike Brenton, Delano Banton, Anthony Barber, John Barber, Leonardo Barbosa, Steve Bardo, JJ Barea, Andrea Barginari, Cliff Baker, Tom Baker, Charles Barkley, Eric Barkley, Don Barkside, Lou Barl, Harrison Barnes, Henry Barnes, Jim Barnes, Marvin Barnes, Matt Barnes, Scotty Barnes, Dick Barnett, Jim Barnett, Nate Barnett, Shanny Barnett, John Barnhill, Norton Barnhill, Leo Barnhorst, John Barr, Mike Barr, Mo Barr, Andre Barrett, Ernie Barrett, Mike Barrett, RJ Barrett, Earl Barron, Dana Barros, Brenny Barry, Drew Barry, John Barry, Rick Barry, Edward Barteas, Vic Bartolome, Will Barton, Eddie Baston, Jerry Baskerville, Brandon Bass, Paris Bass, Tim Bassett, Charles Barkley, or Charles Bassey, Maceo Baston, Billy Ray Bates, Kella Bates Diop, Esteban Batista, Michael Batiste, Buck Baderman, Tony Batty, Shane Battier, John Batty, Kenny Batty, Dave Balton, Lloyd Batts, Nicholas Batum, Johnny Batum, Frank Baumholtz, Lonnie Baxter, Jared Bayless, Elgin Baylor, Howard Bain, Aaron Baines, Sergey Bazarvich, Kent Bazemore, Darius Basley, Ed Beach, Bradley Beal, Al Beard, Butch Beard, Ralph Beard, Charlie Beasley, Jerome Beasley, John Beasley, Malik Beasley, Michael Beasley, Frank Beatty, Zelmo Beatty, Rodriguez, Bo Bois, Byron Beck, Corey Beck, Ernie Beck, Art Becker, Mo Becker, Tom Becker, Bob Bedill, William Bedford, Hank Bienders, Don Beery, Ron B. Hagen, Elmer Benick, Bill Beher, Marco Bellinelli, Byron Bell, Charlie Bell, Dennis Bell, Jordan Bell, Roger Bell, Troy Bell, Whitney Bell, or Whitey Bell, Walt Bellamy, Ray Bellingham, DeAndre Bembry, Irv Benmoras, Leon Benbow, Dragon Bender, Jonathan Bender, Gerald Benimon, Benio Benjamin, Corey Benjamin, Emil Banco, Anthony Bennett, Elmer Bennett, Mario Bennett, Mel Bennett, Spider Bennett, Tony Bennett, Wesley Bennett, Winston Bennett, David Benoit, Al Bunson, Keith Benson, Kent Benson, Ben Bentil, Gene Beers, Beanie Brains. Let me make this bigger. This is taken. There we go. Went through the Bennetts. Keith Benson, Kent Benson, Ben Bentil, Gene Bierce, Beanie Berens, Fred Barreda, Gary Bergen, Larry Berg, Connie Mack, Barry, Ricky Barry, Walter Bailey, Darius Bertans, Davis Bertans, Dale B. Shore, Travis Best, Don Belurme, Patrick Beverly, Sadiq Bay, Tyler Bay, Sim Bohular, Wes B. Yalo Suknia, Al Bianchi, Johnny Bianco, Hank Biasati, Henry Bibby, Mike Bibby, Eddie Bayadinbach, Andres Biedrins, Don Bilk, Bob Bigelow, Max Biggs, Lionel Billingy, Chauncey Billups, Dave Bing, Joe Binion, Ken Birch, Paul Birch, Jabari Bird, Jerry Bird, Larry Bird, Otis Bird Song, Emmett Berg, Jim Berg, Gail Bishop, Ralph Bishop, Goga Bitaze, Bismarck Biambo, Nemanja Bijileka, Uwe Blab, Charles Black, Norman Black, Tariq Black, Tom Black, Thurman Blackledge, Rolando Blackmin, Alex Blackwell, Corey Blackwell, James Blackwell, Nate Blackwell, Doshawan Blair, Steve Blake, Antonio Blakeney, Will Bialak, George Blaney, Lance Blanks, Ricky Blanton, Andre Blateche, Mookie Blylock, Eric Bledsoe, Eugene Blevins, Leon Bevins, John Block, Chuck Blodum, Mike Bloom, Jerome Blossom Game, Corey Blunt, Mark Blunt, Vander Blue, Ray Bloom, Nelson Bob, Tony Bobbitt, Bucky Bockhorn, Bruce Boiler, Tom Boyer-Winkle, Keith Bogans, Bogdan Bogdanovich, Bojan Bogdanovich, Ed Bogdansky, Muggsy Bogues, Andrew Bogut, Eldrick Bohanim, Bulbul Manupul, Jonah Bolden, Marcus Bolden, Bill Bulger, Leonardo Balmero, Joel Balomboy, and Doug Bolstorff. That's halfway through the B's. Whew. Bob Bolliard, George Bonsal, Phil Bon, Walter Bon, Jordan Bone, Dexter Boney, Isaac Bonga, Ron Bonham, Herb Bon, Anthony Bonner, Matt Bonner, Al Bonnywell, Butch Booker, Devin Booker, Melvin Booker, Trevor Booker, Josh Boone, Ron Boone, Calvin Booth, Keith Booth, Bob Boozer, Carlos Boozer, Curtis Borchardt, Jake Bornheimer, Lazaro Borel, Wally Borovic, Ike Bor Savage, Vince Borlia, John Bostack, Chris Bosch, Jim Bostick, Brandon Boston Jr., Lawrence Boston, Sony Boswell, Tom Boswell, Chris Butcher, Lou Baudrau, James Bouknight, Ruben Bontrager, Borntije, Don Boven, Carl Balder, Brian Bowen, Bruce Bowen, Ryan Bowen, Tom Bowens, Harold Bower, Anthony Bowie, Sam Bowie, Orby Bowling, Ira Bowman, Kai Bowman, Nate Bowman, Wink Bowman, Donnie Boyce, Dennis Boyd, Fred Boyd, Ken Boyd, Earl Boykins, Harry Boykoff, Winford Boynes, Cedric Bozeman, Steve Bracey, Craig Brackens, Gary Brads, Alex Bradley, Alonzo Bradley, Avery Bradley, Bill Bradley, Charles Bradley, Dudley Bradley, Jim Bradley, Joe Bradley, Michael Bradley, Sean Bradley, Tony Bradley, Mark Bradke, Mark S. Bragg, Torier Braggs, AJ Bromlett, Adrian Branch, Elton Brand, Terrell Brandon, Bob Branham, Brad Branson, Jesse Branson, Gerald Brantley, Jim Brasco, Mike Bratz, Carl Braun, Ignace Brasdelikis, Tim Bro, J.R. Bremier, Pete Brennan, Tom Brennan, Irv Brenner, Randy Brewer, Corey Brewer the Goat, Jameson Brewer, Jim Brewer, Ron Brewer, Ronnie Brewer, Primoz Brezik, Frank Bryan, Frank Brakowski, Junior Bridgman, Bill Bridges, Mikal Bridges, Miles Bridges, Al Brightman, Armida Bermath, Ad Brindley, Isaiah Brinsko, John Brisker, O'Shea Brissett, Alan Bristow, Tyrone Britt, Wayman Britt, Mike Britton, Dave Britton, John Brockman, Ryan Brokoff, Jim Brogan, Malcolm Brogdon, Gary Brookhowl, Prince Brookfield, Clarence Brookins, Aaron Brooks, Armani Brooks, Dylan Brooks, Kevin Brooks, Marshawn Brooks, Michael Brooks, Scott Brooks, Andre Brown, Anthony Brown, Bill Brown, Bob Brown, Bobby Brown, Bruce Brown Jr., Charlie Brown Jr., Sean D. Brown, Chucky Brown, Damon Brown, Darrell Brown, D. Brown, Derek Brown, Devin Brown, Ernst Brown, Fred Brown, George Brown, Gerald Brown, Greg Brown, Harold Brown, Hillary Brown, Jabari Brown, Jalen Brown, Jim Brown, John Brown, Kedrick Brown, Kwame Brown, Larry Brown, Leon Brown, Lewis Brown, Lorenzo Brown, Marcus Brown, Marco Brown, Marshall Brown, Mike Brown, Moses Brown, Myron Brown, PJ Brown, Randy Brown, Ramin Brown, Ricky Brown, Roger Brown, Rookie Brown, Shannon Brown, Stan Brown, Sterling Brown, Tier Brown, Tony Brown, Troy Brown Jr., Jim Brown, Bill Brownell, Stanley Brundy, Brian Bunkhorst, George Bruns, Jalen Brunson, met him at Lifetime, Rick Brunson, Nicholas Brasino, Elijah Bryant, M. Bryant, Joe Bryant, Kobe Bryant, Mark Bryant, Thomas Bryant, Willis Brown, Torja Bryn, George Bucci, Shaq Buchanan, Joe Buckhalter, Steve Bucknell, Cleveland Buckner, Greg Buckner, Quinn Buckner, Dave Budd, Chase Budinger, Walt Budko, Judd Belcher, Ken Bullher, Rodney Bufford, Matt Bullard, Reggie Bullock, Larry Bunce, Greg Bunch, Dick Bunt, Bill Bunn, Bill Bunting, Lufner Burden, Pat Burke, Trey Burke, Roger Bergman, Alex Burks, Antonio Burks, Kevin Burleson, Tommy Burleson, Jack Burmaster, David Brown, Ever Burns, Jim Burns, Scott Burnell, Art Burris, Junior Burrow, Bob Burrow, Deontay Burton, Ed Barton, Willie Burton, Steve Bartlett, Steve Burt, Don Boosh, Jerry Blush, Sam Bush, Bussish, Dave Bustion, Donnie Butcher, Al Butler, Karen Butler, Charlie Butler, Greg Butler, Jackie Butler, Jared Butler, Jimmy Butler, Mike Butler, Mitchell Butler, Rasul Butler, Dwight Boyax, Derek Barnums, Andrew Bynum, Will Bynum, Walt Bird, Marty Byrons, Tommy Byrons, Mike Bitzura. Whew, that's it for the B's. Now on to the C's. I think B's was the longest. I really hope so. All right, keep in mind, this is everyone that's played in the American National Basketball Association. That's the NBL, also the BAA, the ABA, and all the NBA. All right. Zarko Kaber Kappa, Barney Cable, Soup Cable, Bruno Caboclo, Devante Cococh, John Caffey, Michael Cage, Jerry Calabrese, Nick Calathans, Jose Calderon, Adrian Caldwell, Jim Caldwell, Joe Caldwell, Contavious Caldwell, Pope, Bill Calhoun, Corky Calhoun, Bob Callahan, Demetrius Caleb, Torn Callahan, Rick Calloway, Ernie Cleverly, Mark Calvin, Dexter Cambridge, Marcus Cambry, Joe Camich, Posundo Campazzo, Eldon Campbell, Fred Campbell, Ken Campbell, Tony Campbell, Ed Campton, Isaiah Canan, Valtko Kansar, Devin Canati, Larry Cannon, Clint Capella, Derek Character, Frank Card, Brian Cardinal, Keith Carey, Vernon Carey Jr., Howie Carl, Chet Carlisle, Gino Carlisle, Rick Carlisle, Don Carlos, Al Carlson, Don Carlson from Monsters University, Dan Carnivale, Bob Carney, Rodney Carney, Tony Carr, Bob Competer, Antonio Carr, Austin Carr, Chris Carr, Corey Carr, Kenny Carr, Emma Carr, Daryl Carrier, Bart Carrington, Damari Carl, Joe Barry Carl, Matt Carroll, Jimmy Carruth, Frank Carswell, Anthony Carter, Butch Carter, Fred Carter, George Carter, Howard Carter, Hugh Carter, Jakes Carter, Drevin Carter, Maurice Carter, Reggie Carter, Ron Carter, Vince Carter, Wendell Carter Jr., Michael Carter Williams, Bill Cartwright, Jake Hardy, Alex Caruso, Cornelius Cash, Sam Castle, Omri Kasipi, Harvey Catchings, Terry Catledge, Sid Catlett, Kelvin Cato, Bobby Cattage, Willie Colley-Stein, Troy Copane, Dwayne Coswell, Tyler Cavanagh, Ron Cavanagh, Ahmed Kaver, Cedric Ceballos, John Celestin, Al Servi, Lionel Chalmers, Mario Chalmers, Bill Chamberlain, Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry Chambers, Tom Chambers, Justin Champagne, Mike Champion, Tyson Chandler, Wilson Chandler, Don Cheney, John Cheney, Rex Chapman, Wayne Chapman, Len Chappelle, Ken Charles, Lorenzo Charles, Joe Chile, Calvert Cheney, Zylan Cheatham, Maurice Cheeks, Phil Chenner, Will Cherry, George Chestnut, Derek Chivius, Pete Chilcutt, Josh Childress, Randolph Childress, Chris Childs, Chris Choza, Larry Charlotte, Jim Jones, Marquez Chris, Fred Christ, Cal Christensen, Bob Christian, Doug Christie, Deontay Christmas, Rakeem Christmas, what? Samij Christian, Josh Christopher, Patrick Christopher, Steve Chubbin, Chuck Chukovitz, Ralph Churchfield, Robert Churchwell, Hal Sillar, Archie Clark, Carlos Clark, Dick Clark, Earl Clark, Gary Clark, Ian Clark, Karen Clark, Brandon Clark, Cody Clark, Jordan Clarkson, John Clavel, Victor Clavel, John Clausen, Charles Claxton, Nix Claxton, Speedy Claxton, Jim Clemens, Don Cleary, Mateen Cleaves, Barry Clemens, Chris Clemens, Antonius Cleveland, Nathaniel Clifton, Bill Kloss, halfway down the C's. Keith Kloss, Paul Cloyd, Bob Clugish, Ben Clyde, Troy Colfer, Amir Coffey, Richard Coffey, Fred Cofield, Johnny Coger, Bobby Colburn, Norris Cole, Ben Coleman, Derek Coleman, E.C. Coleman, Jack Coleman, Norris Coleman, Paul Coleman, Marv Colin, Bimbo Coles, Jason Colliner, Art Collins, Don Collins, Doug Collins, Sixers ex-head coach, James Collins, Jaron Collins, Jason Collins, Jimmy Collins, John Collins, Marty Collins, Sharon Collins, Zach Collins, Kyle Collinsworth, Darren Collinson, Nick Collison, Joe Colon, Bonzi Colson, Sean Colson, Steve Coulter, Glenn Combs, Leroy Combs, John Curnow, Dallas Comigs, Jim Kominski, Larry Conley, Jeff Congdon, Gene Conley, Larry Conley, Mike Conley Jr., Ed Conlon, Marty Conlon, Pat Connington, Jimmy Dan Connor, Lester Connor, Chuck Connors, Will Conroy, Anthony Cook, Bert Cook, Bobby Cook, Brian Kirk, Daquan Cook, Darren Cook, Jeff Cook, Norm Cook, Omar Cook, Quinn Cook, Ted Cook, Tyler Cook, Charles Cook, David Cook, Joe Cook, Jack Cooley, Chuck Cooper, Dwayne Cooper, Joe Cooper, Michael Cooper. Let me mute that. Sorry, LinkedIn. Sharif Cooper, Wayne Cooper, Tom Copa, Robert Cope, Chris Copeland, Horace Copeland, Hollis Copeland, Leonard Copeland, Tyrone Corbin, Chris Corciani, Ken Corley, Ray Corley, Peter Cornelia, Dave Corzine, Ed Costain, Larry Costello, Matt Costello, Bob Cotton, Bryce Cotton, Jack Cotton, James Cotton, John Coffram, Mel Counts, Steve Curtin, Joe Courtney, Marcus there's someone named Marcus Cousins and then DeMarcus Cousins, Bob Cousy, Bill Coben, Robert Covington, Dave Cohen's, Chubby Cox, Johnny Cox, Wesley Cox, Alan Krabby, Tori Craig, Gene Kramer, Chris Crawford, Freddie Crawford, Jamal Crawford, Joe Crawford, Jordan Crawford, Mitch Creek, Jim Craigton, Ron Curvier, Harold Chrysler, Joe Crispin, Charlie Chris, Russ Critchfield, Winston Curdy, Javaris Curtin, Dillard Crocker, Bobby Croft, Jeff Crompton, Terry Crosby, Austin Croshair, Jeff Cross, Pete Cross, Russell Cross, Shane Cross, and John Crowdy, Bill Crow, Mark Crow, Corey Crowder, Jay Crowder, George Crow, Leo Crow, Kieran Crowley, Freddie Crum, Al Cueto, Marty Cullen, Jarrett Culver, Duke Cumberland, Jaron Cumberland, Pat Cummings, Terry Cummins, Bontigo Cummings, Billy Cunningham, Kate Cunningham, Cookie Cunningham, Dante Cunningham, Dick Cunningham, Jared Cunningham, William Cunningham, Radislav Kurchich, Armin Cure, Earl Curtin, Bill Curley, Fran Curran, Jim Curry, Del Curry, Eddie Curry, James On Curry, Michael Curry, Seth Curry, Stephen Curry, Rasko Svetovich, and Welt Cesarnecki. That's it for the C's. All right. Now for D. Here we go. Mike DeBitch. Harold Dell, Ed Dollar, Quentin Daly, Samuel Dellenbert, Howie Delmar, Eric Dampier, Louis Dampier, Ed Danker, Bob Dandridge, Antonio Daniels, Eric Daniels, Lloyd Daniels, Marquise Daniels, Mel Daniels, Troy Daniels, Sasha Danilovich, Adrian Dentley, Mike D'Antoni, he played in the league, Pete Darcy, Jimmy Darden, Ollie Darden, Yinka Dare, Jesse Dark, Nate Darling, Rick Darnell, Luigi Datome, Brad Daugherty, Mac Daugherty, Cornell David, Jamarno Davidson, Bob Davies, Brendan Davies, Anthony Davis, Antonio Davis, Aubrey Davis, Baron Davis, Ben Davis, Bill Davis, Bob Davis, Brad Davis, Brian Davis, Charles Davis, Charlie Davis, Dale Davis, Deontay Davis, Dwight Davis, Ed Davis, Emmanuel Davis, Glenn Davis, Harry Davis, Hubert Davis, Jim Davis, Johnny Davis, Josh Davis, Lee Davis, Mark Davis, Mel Davis, Mickey Davis, Mike Davis, Monty Davis, Paul Davis, Ralph Davis, Red Davis, Ricky Davis, Ron Davis, Terrence Ravis, Terry Ravis, Tyler Davis, Walt Davis, Walter Davis, Warren Davis, Willie Davis, Andre Dawkins, Daryl Dawkins, Johnny Dawkins, Paul Dawkins, Brendan Dawson, Eric Dawson, Jamie Dawson, John B. Dawson, Tony Dawson, Todd Day, Austin Day, Darren Day, Greg Dean, Billy DeAngelis, Les Deaton, Rudy Debnar, Dave Dubushery, Gabriel Deck, Andrew D. Claroch, Nando D. Colo, Dwayne Dedman, Don D. Archie D's, Terry Deere, Pick Denner, Red Denner, Bryce DeJean Jones, Sam Decker, Malcolm Delaney, Javen Delarier, Bison Del, Carlos Delfino, Angel Delgado, Tony Del, Vinny Del Negro, Matthew Della Villanueva, how do I not know how to say that? Nate DeLong, Fennis Dembro, Harold Dembro, or Dembo, Larry Demich, Del Demps, George Dempsey, Lowell Dang, Kenny Denard, Blaine Denning, Justin Dentman, Randy Denton, Joe Dupree, Rod Dearline, DeMar Rosen, Marcus Derrickson, Dave Deutsch, Bill DiVenzio, Corky Devlin, Hal Duvall, Bob DeWeese, Hank Dizzoni, Mamadi Diakai, Derek Dial, Chiak Diallo. Halfway done. The D's. Hamidou Diallo, Boris Dial, Hakuba Diawara, Guillermo Diaz, Dan Dickow, Kaniel Dickens, Henry Dickerson, Michael Dickerson, Clyde Dickey, Derek Dickey, Dick Dickey, John Dixon, Whitey Dianel, Travis Danger, Georgie Diang, Connie Dierking, Kobe Dietrich, Bob Dietz, Ernie D, Greg Giorgio, Craig Dill, Dwayne Dillard, Mickey Dillard, Bob Dill, John Dillon, Byron Dinkins, Jackie Dinkins, Harry Donnell, Bill Dinwiddie, Spencer Dinwiddie, Ike Dioju, Di Sagana Diop, Terry Dishinger, Fred Dwight, Vlade Divac, Dante DiVincenzo, Juan Dixon, Alexander Dortevich, Earl Dodd, Gus Dorner, Michael Deloach, John Dulhorn, Bob Dahl, James Donaldson? That's Jimmy Donaldson. That's Mr. Beast. What the heck? Mr. Beast playing the NBA confirmed? And look who's next to him. Luka Doncic. Bob Donovan, Billy Donovan, Harry Donovan, Kaya Dulig, Jackie Dorsey, Joey Dorsey, Ron Dorsey, Tyler Dorsey, Lou Gwent, Dort, Io Dosunmo, Demian Dotson, Devin Dotson, Quincy Doby, Bruce Douglas, John Douglas, Leon Douglas, Sherman Douglas, Tony Douglas, Chris Douglas Roberts, Sequoia Diom Boya, Sonny Dove, Jerry Dover, Zabian Dowdell, Duck Dowell, Bill Downey, Glenn Downey, Steph Downing, Jeff Dalton, Danny Doyle, Milton Doyle, PJ Dozier, Terry Dozier, Zoran Dragic, Greg Drelig, Bryce Drew, John Drew, Larry Drew II, Clyde Drexler, Nate Triggers, Terry Driscoll, John Drinch, Bob Dro, Predrag, Drob Nijak, Ralph Drollinger, Andre Drummond, Beryl Drummond, Chris Duarte, Paul Ducharme, Dick Duquette, Kevin Duckworthy, Charles Dudley, Chris Dudley, Jared Dudley, Terry Duroyd, Bob Duffy, Jack Duger, Chris Dolhoun, Duge Ducon, David Duke Jr., Walter Dukes, Joe Dumas, Rich Dumas, Richard Dumas, Tony Dumas, Andy Duncan, Tim Duncan, Mike DeLevy Jr., Mike Dunleavy Sr., Chris Dunn, Pat Duntier, Don, Dave Dupuis, Ronald Dupree, Kevin Durant, John Durham, Jarrett Durham, Pat Durham, Bill Durkee, Bill Durkin, Devin Durant, Ken Durant, Dennis Duval, Trevin Duval, Jack Dwan, Craig Dykerma, Gene Diker, Bob Drexta, Jerome Dyson. Let's go. That's it for the D's. On to the E's and F's. They're combined on Wikipedia for some reason. Okay. Liddell Eccles, Jim Eakins, Asia Earl, Ed Earl, Cleanthony Early, Mark Eaton, Jerry Eves, Devin Ebanks, Floyd Ubaugh, Bill Eben, Al Eberhard, Nadui Ebby, Roy Ebron, Jamie Etchenique, Gerald Eddy, Patrick Eddy, Dwight Eddyman, Kenton Edelman, Charles Edge, Bobby Joe Edmonds, Keith Edmondson, Tyus Edney, Anthony Edwards, Bill Edwards, Blue Edwards, Carson Edwards, Corsi Edwards, Doug Edwards, Franklin Edwards, Grant Edwards, James Edwards, Joy Edwards, John Edwards, Kessler Edwards, Kevin Edwards, Leroy Edwards, Rob Edwards, Shane Edwards, Tommy Edwards, Vincent Edwards, Johnny Egan, Lonnie Eggleston, Bulbs Ellers, Craig L. Lowe, what am I reading? Rich L. Chorst, Howard Easley, Albina Ekizi, Khalid L. Amin, Don Elizon, Mario L., CJ Elabai, Ray Ellison, Henry Ellison, Wayne Ellington, Danny Elliott, Bob Elliott, Sean Elliott, Bo Ellis, Boo Ellis, Dale Ellis, Harold Ellis, Joe Ellis, LaFono Ellis, LaRon Ellis, Leroy Ellis, Monta Ellis, Purvis Ellis, Len Elmore, Don Elser, Francisco Elson, Daryl Elston, Melvin Ellie, Joel, The Process, Embiid, Wade Embry, Andre Emmett, Ned Endress, Warner Engdahl, Wayne Engelstad, Chris Engler, AJ English, Alex English, Claude English, Jojo English, Kim English, Scott English, Gene Oglin, James Ennis III, Tyler Ennis, Charlie Epperson, Ray Epps, Ed Urban, Semit Erden, Bo Arias, Keith Erickson, Mark Elter, Julius Irving, Dr. J, Evan Eschmeyer, Jack Estridge, Vincent Esposito, Billy Evans, Rob Evans, Brian Evans, Dick Evans, Earl Evans, Hank Evans, Jacob Evans, Joanne Evans, Jeremy Evans, Maurice Evans, Mike Evans, Reggie Evans, Tyreek Evans, Barrett Evans, Evard, Daniel Ewing, Patrick Ewing, Patrick Ewing Jr., Ken XL, Dante Exum, Christian Ienga, Festus Azeli, Johnny Ezerski. Time for the F's. Joe Fabell, John Fairchild, Teddy Falda, Taco Fall, Phil Farman, Kenneth Fareed, Dick Farley, Jordan Farmer, Desmond Farmer, Jim Farmer, Mike Farmer, Tony Farmer, Bill Fallow, Bob Fod, Voder Favarani, Derek Favors, Nick Fazakis, Fred Fetchman, Dave Federer, Bob Farik, Butch Ferrer, Jamie Feck, Ron Ferry Racel, George Fienbaum, Dave Fedel, Cristiano Felicio, Kay Felder, Carix Felix, Noah Felix, Ray Felix, Raymond Felton, Jake Fenley, Warren Fenley, Desmond Ferguson, Terrence Ferguson, Rudy Fernandez, Bruno Fernando, Eric Fernstein, Al Ferrari, Rolando Ferreira, Dwayne Farrell, Yogi Farrell, Annie Ferrin, Bobby Ferry, Danny Ferry, Carlo Fesenko, Bobby Fields, Kenny Fields, Laundry Fields, Adam Phillips, Zach, Rob Felipe, Greg Fillmore, Larry Finch, Hank Finkel, Michael Finley, Danny Finn, Dorian Finney-Smith, Matt Fish, Derek Fisher, Rick Fisher, Gerald Fitch, Malik Fitz, Wilson Fitz, Bob Fitzgerald, Dick Fitzgerald, Marcus Pfizer, Jerry Fleischman, Al Fleming, Ed Fleming, Vern Fleming, Gordon Flick, Luis Flores, Bruce Flowers, Sleepy Floyd, Johnny Floyd, Malachi Flynn, Mike Flynn, Larry Fogo, Jack Foley, Isaac Fontaine, Levy Fontaine, Jeff Foote. Bryn Forbes, Gary Forbes, Aleem Ford, Alfonso Ford, Alton Ford, Bob Ford, Chris Ford, Don Ford, Jake Ford, Lane Ford, Phil Ford, Shar Ford, Terrell Ford, TJ Ford, Donnie Foreman, Bayard Forrest, Trent Forrest, Joseph Forte, Ernie Fortnite, Courtney Fortson, Danny Fortson, Fred Foster, Greg Foster, Jeff Foster, Jimmy Foster, Rod Foster, Antonius Fotsis, Evan Fournier, Larry Faust, Steve Fowdy, Calvin Fowler, Jerry Fowler, Tremaine Fellis, Darren Fox, Harold Fox, Jim Fox, Rick Fox, Wilbur Fox, Randy Foy, Adano Foyle, Richie Fromm, Chet Francis, Steve Francis, Tellis Frank, Ned Frankel, Jamal Franklin, Will Franklin, Robert Franks, Ron Frau, Nick Frasella, Milvin Frazier, Michael Frazier II, Tim Frazier, Walt Frazier, Wilbur Frazier, Anthony Frederick, Jimmy Fredette, World Be Free, Joel Freeland, Donnie Freeman, Gary Freeman, Rod Freeman, Matt Frigier, Frito Frey, Larry Friend, Pat Frank, Ted Frisch, Jim Frisch, Channing Fry, Bernie Fire, Frank Fusarino, Herm Fuchs, John Fulks, Carl Fuller, M. Fuller, Homer Fuller, Todd Fuller, Tony Fuller, Markel Fultz, Lawrence Funderburk, Dick Furry, and Terry Furlow. That's done with the Fs. We are 1, 2, 3, 4. We are 6 out of 26 complete. Man. Alright, on to the G's. Let's see. Oof. This one's looking a little long. Billy Gabor, Wenyan Gabriel, Dan Godzurik, Daniel Gafford, Dang Guy, Elmer Gaynor, Bill Gaines, Corey Gaines, David Gaines, Reese Gaines, Sandia Gaines, Letty Gale, Mike Gale, Chad Gallagher, Harry Gallatin, Danilo Gallinari, Langston Galloway, Lau Galloway, Dave Gamby, Kevin Gamby, Fred Garit, Fred Gant, Bob Gant, Jorge Garbajosa, Ruben Garces, Alex Garcia, Francisco Garcia, Frank Garcia, Ben Gardner, Chuck Gardner, Earl Gardner, Ken Gardner, Thomas Gardner, Vern Gardner, Jack Garfinkel, Patricio Garanio, Darius Garland, Gary Garland, Winston Garland, Dick Garmaker, Bill Garner, Chris Garner, Bill Garnett, Kevin Garnett, Marlon Garnett, Billy Garrett Jr., Calvin Garrett, Dean Garrett, Deontay Garrett, Dick Garrett, Marcus Garrett, Roland Garrett, Tom Garrett, John Garris, Kawane Garris, Pat Garrity, Usman Garuba, James Gervin, Luca Garza, Marcus Pagosol, Frank Gates, Pop Gates, Chris Gallion, Kenny Gaddison, Bob Gaushat, Rudy Gay, the only one with Gay is their name, Ed Gayuda, I guess that's close, Andrew Gaze, Michael Jabinje, Reggie Geary, Alonzo G, Johnny G, Matt Geiger, Michael Gelabale, Hal Genshian, Devin George, Jack George, Paul George, Tate George, Marcus Georges, Hunt, Gus Gerard, Bob Gerber, Derek Gervin, George Gervin, Gorman Getchell, John Gianelli, Dick Gibbs, Jim Gibbs, John Gibbs, Daniel Gibson, D. Gibson, Hugh Gibson, Jonathan Gibson, Mel Gibson, Mike Gibson, Tosh Gibson, J.R. Giddens, Josh Giddy, Booty Gilbertson, Trey Gilger, Harris Gilgis, Shai Gilgis, Alexander, Frankie Gilhooly, Anthony Gill, Eddie Gill, Kenny Gill, or Kendall Gill, Ben Guillory, Freddie Gillespie, Jack Gillespie, Gene Gillette, Armin Gilliam, Herm Gilliam, Artis Gilmore, Walt Gilmore, Chuck Gilmore, Manu Ginobili, I know him, Jaime Ginsberg, Gordon, Gary Shack, Jack Givens, Mikhail Gladness, George Glamack, Ed Glancy, Terrell Glass, Jim Glass, Mike Glenn, Normie Glick, Georgie Gluchkov, Clarence Glover, Dion Glover, Andreas Gleniadakis, Mike Chiminski, Rudy Gobert, Dan Godfried, Pim Goff, Tom Gola, Ben Goldfaden, Jackie Goldsmith, Anthony Goldwire, Ryan Gomes, Glenn Gondrezick, Grant Gondrezick, Drew Gooden. Halfway done. Gail Goodrich, Steve Goodrich, Archie Goodwin, Brandon Goodwin, Jordan Goodwin, Pop Goodwin, Aaron Gordon, Ben Gordon, Drew Gordon, Eric Gordon, Lancaster Gordon, Paul Gordon, Marcin Gortat, Leo Gottlieb, Andrew Godlock, Gerald Govin, Beto Gobjaraki, Joe Drabowski, Ricky Grace, Erwin Graff, Fred Graft, Cal Graham, Devontae Graham, Greg Graham, Joey Graham, Mal Graham, Orlando Graham, Otto Graham, Paul Graham, Stephen Graham, Trevion Graham, Jim Grandholm, Ronnie Grandison, Danny Granger, Stuart Granger, Brian Grant, Bud Grant, Gary Grant, Greg Grant, Harvey Grant, Horace Grant, Jeremy Grant, Jerry Grant, Josh Grant, Paul Grant, Travis Grant, Dante Grantham, John Great, Walter Grauman, Butch Graves, Hassani Graved, Aaron Gray, Cortez Gray, Devin Gray, Ed Gray, Evich Gray, Gary Gray, Josh Gray, Leonard Gray, Stuart Gray, Sylvester Gray, Wendell Gray, Jeff Grayer, Bob Grissan, AC Green, Denny Green, Devin Green, Jamon Green, Eric Green, Joel Green, Jamali Green, Jalen Green, Jamichael Green, Javante Green, Jeff Green, Johnny Green, Josh Green, Ken Green, Kenny Green, Lamar Green, Literal Green, Luther Green, Mike Green, Ricky Green, Sean Green, Sidney Green, Sahugo Green, Steve Green, Tarian Green, Tommy Green, Willie Green, Dante Green, Orion Green, Jerry Greenspan, David Greenwood, Hal Greer, Lynn Greer, Gary Greger, Claude Gregory, John Gregg, Norm Grecken, Al Grinert, Kevin Kevin Grevy, Dennis Gray, Adrian Griffin, Blake Griffin, Eddie Griffin, Greg Griffin, Paul Griffin, Taylor Griffin, Daryl Griffith, Ken Griffith, Chuck Grigsby, Quentin Grimes, Derek Grimm, George Grimshaw, Dick Grote, Bob Gross, Mike Grosso, Art Grove, Alex Groza, Dick Grubar, Anthony Grundy, Ace Gruenig, Ernie Grunfield, Nick Grunsweg, Jerv Grala, Marco Grodrick, Peter Giomundison, Richie Guerin, Tom Gogliota, Andreas Goldberg, Jay Goldinger, Ken Gunning, Colby Gunther, Dave Gunther, Al Gukas, Matt Gukas Sr., Matt Gukas, Jorge Gutierrez, Kyle Guy, and AJ Guyton. That's it for G's. Now on to H's. Oh, there's a lot of H's. All right. Let me get some water. Whew, man. We are about 35 minutes in. Ha-Seng Jin, Bill Harlow, Roy Hachimura, Rudy Hackett, Harned Haddadi, Jim Hadnett, Scott Hafner, Cliff Hagen, Glenn Hagen, Tom Hagen, Ashton Hagans, Bob Hahn, George Haynes, Warren Herr, Al Hairston, Happy Harrison, Lizzie Harrison, Malik Harrison, PJ Harrison, Marcus Heislip, Chick Halbert, Swede Halbrook, Bruce Hale, Hal Hale, Jack Haley, Tyrese Halliburton, Skylar Hellman, Devin Hall, Dante Hall, Josh Hall, Mike Hall, Tyler Hall, Jeff Halliburton, Tyrese Halliburton, Darvin Ham, Ray Hammond, Steve Hammer, Dale Hamilton, Daniel Hamilton, Dennis Hamilton, Joe Hamilton, Jordan Hamilton, Justin Hamilton, Ralph Hamilton, Richard Hamilton, Roy Hamilton, Steve Hamilton, Tang Hamilton, Thomas Hamilton, Zendon Hamilton, Garrett Hemming, Julian Hemmings, Tom Hemmings, AJ Hammonds, Joe Hammond, RJ Hampton, Darrett Hancock, Ben Hamlow, Jatin, Cecil Hankins, Phil Hankinson, Dusty Hanaz, Alex Hammond, Don Henron, Roland Hans, Ben Hansborough, Tyler Hansborough, Bob Hansen, Glenn Hansen, Lars Hansen, Travis Hansen, Reggie Hansen, Bill Haslick, Bill Hepak, Luke Harangati, Penny Hardaway, Tim Hardaway Jr., James Harden, Reggie Hardling, Charles Hardinet, Ellen Hardy, Darrell Hardy, James Hardy, Ira Harge, John Harkins, Maurice Harkless, Jerry Harkness, Skip Harlika, Jerome Hammond, Derek Harper, Jared Harper, Justin Harper, Mike Harper, Ron Harper, Matt Harpering, Montrez Harrell, Josh Harrelson, Adam Harrington, Al Harrington, Lorenzo Harrington, Othea Harrington, Art Harris, Bernie Harris, Billy Harris, Bob Harris, Chris Harris, Devin Harris, Elias Harris, Gary Harris, Jalen Harris, Joe Harris, Lucius Harris, Luther Harris, Manny Harris, Mike Harris, Steve Harris, Tur Harris, Tobias Harris, Tony Harris, Aaron Harrison, Andrew Harrison, Bob Harrison, David Harrison, Shaquille Harrison, Jason Hart, Josh Hart, Isaiah Hartenstein, Huck Hartman, Antonio Harvey, Don Harvey, Donald Harvey, Nick Hashu, Scott Haskin, Clem Haskins, Udonis Haslim, Trenton Hassel, Billy Hassett, Joe Hassett, Bob Hassmiller, Scott Hastings, Kurt Aston, Vernon Hatton, Sam Hauser, John Havlicek, Spencer Hawes, Steve Howes, Connie Hawkins, Earl Hawkins, Hershey Hawkins, Jaquan Hawkins, Marshall Hawkins, Michael Hawkins, Robert Hawkins, Tom Hawkins, Chuck Hawley, Nate Hawthorne, Chuck Hayes, Elvin Hayes, Travis Hayes, Jackson Hayes, Jim Hayes, Killian Hayes, Nigel Hayes, Ray Hayes, Steve Hayes, Gordon Hayward, Les Haywood, Brendan Haywood, Spencer Haywood, John Hazen, Walt Hazard, Luther Head, Shane Heald, Brian Heaney, Gar Hurd, Reggie Hearn, Pete Komovich, Harm Hederick, Alvin Higgs, Tom Hinshon, Dickie Hemrich, Alan Henderson, Cedric Henderson, Kurt Henderson, David Henderson, Gerald Henderson, Jr., Jerry Henderson, Drum Henderson, Kelvin Henderson, Tom Henderson, Mark Hendrickson, Larry Hennessy, Don Henriksen, Aaron Henry, Ali Henry, Bill Henry, Carl Henry, Connor Henry. Halfway done the H's. Mike Henry, Skeeter Henry, Xavier Henry, Bob Henshaw, John Henson, Steve Henson, Charlie Hance, Paul Herman, Bill Herman, Cleggy Hemson, Dwan Hernandez, Juan Hernan Gomez, Willie Hernan Gomez, Chris Herron. Oh my gosh, I remember that guy. There was a documentary on her, I think. Yeah, on him. We watched that in school. Chris Herron, Carl Herrera, Walter Herman, Tyler Hero, my homeboy Tyler, he playing in South Beach. Keith Herron, Sidney Hertzberg, Kevin Hervey, George Hessig, Dan Hester, Fred Hetzel, Bill Hewitt, Jack Housen, Art Heyman, Mario Hajonia, Roy Hibbert, Nat Hickey, Isaiah Hicks, Phil Hicks, J.J. Hicks, and Buddy Hield, Bill Hoggins, Corey Hoggins, Earl Higgins, Jim Higgins, Mike Higgins, Rod Higgins, Sean Higgins, Kenny Higgs, Johnny High, Haywood Highsmith, Wayne Hightower, Jim Hedgeman, Arnold Hill, Cleo Hill, Gary Hill, George Hill, Grant Hill, Jordan Hill, Malcolm Hill, Mort Hill, Simone Hill, Solomon Hill, Stephen Hill, Tyrone Hill, Darian Hillard, Art Hill House, Darnell Hillman, Fred Hillen, Kirk Henrich, Roy Hinson, Nate Hinton, Pat Hintz, Mel Hirschler, Lou Hitch, Robert Height, Joel Hitt, Jalen Hort, Darrington Hobson, Donald Hodge, Julius Hodge, Craig Hodges, Charlie Hoffner, Johnny Hoekstra, Howie Hoffman, Paul Hoffman, George Hogan, Bob Hogsett, Paul Hoig, Fred Holberg, Doug Holcomb, Randy Holcomb, Aaron Holiday, Drew Holiday, Justin Holiday, Bill Holland, Brad Holland, Joe Holland, John Holland, Wilbert Holland, Leon Hollins, Ryan Hollins, S.C. Hollins, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, Buddy Holmes, Denny Holman, Ife Holmes, Rashawn Holmes, Jim Holston, A.W. Holt, Michael Holton, Dick Holup, Joe Holup, Red Holzman, Jim Homer, Gerald Honeycutt, Tyler Honeycutt, Derek Hood, Rodney Hood, Bobby Hooper, Carol Hooser, Tim Hoover, Bob Hopkins, Dave Hobson, Dennis Hobson, Scotty Hobson, Johnny Huron, Cedric Horges, Al Horford, Tito Horford, Ron Horn, Jeff Hornacek, Dennis Homer, Robert Horry, Ed Horton, Talon Horton Tucker, Bill Hoskett Jr., Bill Hoskett Sr., Bob Bridges, Daniel House, Eddie House, Alan Houston, Byron Houston, Tom Havasi, Brian Howard, Dwight Howard, Greg Howard, Josh Howard, Juan Howard, Marcus Howard, Mo Howard, Alice Howard, Stephen Howard, William Howard, Billy Howell, Bob Hubbard, Phil Hubbard, Lee Huber, Lester Hudson, Lou Hudson, Rosie Hudson, Troy Hudson, Marcelo Hurtas, Kevin Horder, Josh Wistis, Jay Huff, Marv Huffman, Nate Huffman, Vern Huffman, Al Frenick Hughes, Eddie Hughes, Elijah Hughes, Kim Hughes, Larry Hughes, Rick Hughes, Harold Ho, Robert Hummel, John Hummer, Ryan Humphrey, Isaiah Humphreys, Jay Humphreys, Chris Humphreys, Hot Rod Hundley, Farron Hunt, Brandon Hunter, Cedric Hunter, Chris Hunter, DeAndre Hunter, Les Hunter, Lindsey Hunter, Othello Hunter, RJ Hunter, Stephen Hunter, Vince Hunter, Bobby Hurley, Roy Hurley, Jeff Huston, Paul Huston, Hal Hutchinson, Dar Hutchins, Mel Hutchins, Chandler Hutchinson, Herbie Hutchinson, Joe Hutton, Art Hyatt, Greg Hyder, Bones Highland. That's done with the H's. Now on to I's, which are very short, and then J's, which is mid. Mark Ivaroni, Serge Ibaka, Andre Iguodala, Zydrunas Ilguasquez, Mile Ilish, Ersan Ilyasova, Doral Ernhoff, Tom Inglesby, Joe Ingles, Damian Inglis, Andre Ingram, Brandon Ingram, McCoy Ingram, Irvin Integer, Byron Irvin, George Irving, Kyrie Irving, Jonathan Isaac, John Isaacs, Dan Issel, Mike Uzzolino, Allen Iverson, Willie Iverson, Royal Ivy, Elvin Ivory, and Wes Iwin Undu. I's, that was short. J's. Warren Jabali, George Jablonski, Jarrett Jack, Aaron Jackson, Al Jackson, Bobby Jackson, Cedric Jackson, Darnell Jackson, Demetrius Jackson, Frank Jackson, Craig Jackson, Isaiah Jackson, Jaron Jackson, Jr., Jermaine Jackson, Jim Jackson, John Jackson, Justin Jackson, Lucius Jackson, Luke Jackson, Mark Jackson, Mervyn Jackson, Michael Jackson, Mike Jackson. Wait, what? Mike Jackson, Myron Jackson, Phil Jackson, Pierre Jackson, Ralph Jackson, Randall Jackson, Reggie Jackson, Stan Jackson, Stanley Jackson, Steven Jackson, Tony Jackson, Tracy Jackson, Wardell Jackson, Fred Jacobs, Casey Jacobson, Sam Jacobson, Stube Jacobson, Lou Jagnal, Dave Jamerson, Aaron James, Brennan James, Billy James, Damian James, Gene James, Henry James, Jerome James, Justin James, LeBron James, Mike James, Tim James, Antoine Jameson, Harold Jameson, John James, Howie Janoda, Marco George, Tony Jaros, Dijon Giroux, Jim Jarvis, Sarunas Jasikevicius, Nathan Jawai, Buddy Jeanette, Abdul Jalani, Chris Jeffries, other Jeffers, Al Jefferson, Ann Jefferson, Corey Jefferson, Dontel Jefferson, Richard Jefferson, Daquan Jeffries, Jared Jeffries, Charles Jenkins, Horace Jenkins, John Jenkins, Brandon Jennings, Jack Jennings, Keith Jennings, Chris Jennings, Les Jespin, Jonas Jarebko, Ty Jerome, Grant, Jarrett, Bill Jesko. What? My thing just refreshed. No, we were at Jesko, right? Yeah. What the heck? Come on. Jesko. Yep, Bill Jesko, Eugene Jeter, Hal Jeter, Charlie, Joe Chim, Isaiah Joe, Braden Jones, Al Johnson, Alexander Johnson, Elise Johnson, Amir Johnson, Annie Johnson, Anthony Johnson, Armin Johnson, Arnie Johnson, Avery Johnson, BJ Johnson, Bose Johnson, Bob Johnson, Bruce Johnson, Buck Johnson, Cameron Johnson, Cardell Johnson, Charles Johnson, Chris Johnson, Clay Johnson, Clem Johnson, Takari Johnson, Daryl Johnson, Dave Johnson, David Johnson, DeMarco Johnson, Dennis Johnson, DeMar Johnson, Ed Johnson, Eddie Johnson, Elmer Johnson, Eric Johnson, Irvin Johnson, Frank Johnson, George Johnson, Gus Johnson, Harold Johnson, Ivan Johnson, Jajuan Johnson, Jalen Johnson, James Justin, Joe Johnson, John Johnson, Kennard Johnson, Keldon Johnson, Ken Johnson, Keon Johnson, Kelvin Johnson, Larry Johnson, Lee Johnson, Lynn Johnson, Leonard Johnson, Magic Johnson, Marcus Johnson, Mickey Johnson, Norris Johnson, oh my gosh, Johnson, Neil Johnson, Nick Johnson, Ali Johnson, Amar Johnson, Orlando Johnson, Reggie Johnson, Rich Johnson, Ron Johnson, Spunner Johnson, Stanley Johnson, Stephen Johnson, Steve Johnson, Stu Johnson, Trey Johnson, Tyler Johnson, Vinny Johnson, Wesley Johnson, Darius Johnson, Odo, Nate Johnston, Neil Johnston, Jim Johnstone, Nikola Jokic, Boo, Howie, Joliffe, Alvin Jones, Anthony Jones, Oscar Jones, Bill Jones, Bobby Jones, Carver Jones, Carly Jones, Casey Jones, Charles Jones, Carlos Jones, Dedante Jones, Damon Jones, Daquan Jones, Derek Jones Jr., Dominique Jones, Dante Jones, Dwayne Jones, Dwight Jones, Earl Jones, Eddie Jones, Edgar Jones, Fred Jones, Herbert Jones, Hutch Jones, Jake Jones, Jalen Jones, James Jones, Demario Jones, Jimmy Jones, Johnny Jones, Jermaine Jones, Casey Jones, Kai Jones, Kevin Jones, Larry Jones, Major Jones, Mark Jones, Mason Jones, Nick Jones, Azalea Jones, Perry Jones, Popeye Jones, Rich Jones, Robin Jones, Sam Jones, Sheldon Jones, Solomon Jones, Steve Jones, Terrence Jones, Tyrus Jones, Wawa Jones, Wally Jones, Will Jones, Willie Jones, Adonis Jordan, Charles Jordan, DeAndre Jordan, Eddie Jordan, Jerome Jordan, Ken Jordan, and Michael Jordan, Reggie Jordan, Thomas Jordan, Walter Jordan, Phil Jordan, Johnny Jorgensen, Noble Jorgensen, Roger Jorgensen, Corey Joseph, Garth Joseph, Chris Joseph, Yovan Joseph, Jimmy Joyce, Kevin Joyce, Butcher Jordan, Jeff Judkins, Paul Juntunen. The heck? That's it for the J's. On to the K's. This one looks a little shorter. Mofiondo Kabengeli, Whitney Kachan, George Kaftan, Ed Kalafat, Georgios Kalatezaskas, Chris Kamen, Frank Kaminsky, Anis Kanner, Ralph Kaplowitz, Jason Capono, Tony Kaplan, Sergey Karasev, Kobe Carl, George Carl, Tony Caseta, Ed Kassid, Mario Kasun, Leo Katavich, Bob Kaufman, Sasha Kahn, Wilbs Kotz, Clarence Key, Mike Kearns, Tommy Kearns, Adam Keefe, Harold Keelig, Billy Keller, Gary Keller, Jack Keller, Ken Keller, Rich Kelly, Clark Kellogg, Arvesta Kelly, Jerry Kelly, Ryan Kelly, Tom Carey, Tony Kelly, Craig Kessler, Ben Kelliso, Sean Kemp, Tim Kempton, Frank Kendrick, Luke Kennard, Bill Kennedy, JJ Kennedy, Joe Kennedy, Larry Kenny, Larry Kennan, Bill Kenville, Jonathan Kerner, Johnny Kerr, Steve Kerr, Jack Karras, Jerome Kersey, Tom Kerwin, Alec Kessler, Robert Kessler, Paul Kessy, Larry Kedner, Braxton Key, Julius Key, Randolph Keys, Victor Kravpaya, Jason Kidd, Stanton Kidd, Warren Kidd, Michael Kidd, Gilchrist, Irv Kiflin, Jack Kelly, Ernie Klum, Carl Kilpatrick, Sean Kilpatrick, Toby Kimball, Bo Kimball, Stan Kimbrough, Chad King, Albert King, Bernard King, Chris King, Dan King, Dolly King, Frank King, George King, Jim King, Jimmy King, Lori King, Lewis King, Lloyd King, Reese King, Reggie King, Rich King, Ron King, Stanley, Sansa King, Tom King, Willie King, Bob Kinney, Joe Kinney, Terrence Kinsey, Andre Kirilenko, Alex Kirk, Walt Kirk, Wilbur Kirkland, Corey Kesper, Jim Kassane, Doug Keisler, Curtis Kitchen, Craig Kite, Bob Kitterman, Kenny Kittles, Maxie Kleber, Dick Clan, Joe Clan, Lennis Klesa, Leo Kelzer, Louis Klutz, Dwayne Klitsch, Lonnie Klutz, Billy Knight, Bob Knight, Brandon Knight, Brevin Knight, Nathan Knight, Nageli Knight, Ron Knight, Toby Knight, Travis Knight, Buzz Knobloch, Lee Knorek, Dick Nosman, Rod Knowles, Kevin Knox, Bart Kofoid, Don Kajos, Eddie Kolar, Otto Kolar, Bill Kominich, Milo Kominich, Howie Komeeves, John Konokok, Johnny Konochar, Tom Kanodia, Bud Koper, Joe Capici, Furcon, Cork Maz, Frank Cornett, Luke Cornett, Yaroslav Korolov, Hal Korovin, Kyle Korver, Tony Koski, Len Kosmalski, Andy Kostrika, Harold Kotman, John Kotz, Kosta Kofos, Tom Kozelko, Ronald Kozlicki, Vic Kraft, Arvid Kramer, Barry Kramer, Bob Kramer, Joel Kramer, Steve Kramer, Dan Cross, Herb Krotblatt, Vlaslav Kravtsov, Jim Krebs, Vit Krejci, Wayne Kreklov, Tommy Cron, Tom Kropp, Nanad Kristik, Joe Cruz, Larry Krista Koyak, Ray Kiroska, Steve Kuberski, Leo Kubiak, Vito Kublia, Celeste Kublich, Bruce Kusinski, Frank Kudelka, John Quister, Ray Kula, Tony Kukoc, Arnoldas Kulboka, Jonathan Kuminga, Kevin Kunert, Terry Kunz, Mitch Kupchak, CJ Kupech, Rondinos, Kurokos, Rob Kurz, Ibrahim Kutle, Kyle Kuzma, Onjen Kuzmik, Mindeguas Kuzminskas, and Ed Quiller. Jeez, those names were annoying. Alright, we're almost halfway there. We're at L. Sky Labisseri, Reggie Lacefield, Sam Lacey, Bob Lackey, Fred Lacour, Edgar Lacey, Wendell Leitner, Christian Leitner, Oliver Lafayette, Rife LaFrance, Tom Lagarde, Bill Lambier, Nick Lalish, P. Lalish, Jean Lally, Bo Lambar, Anthony Lamb, Dorian Lamb, Jeremy Lamb, John Lambert, Buck Lamb, Jeff Lamb, Maciej Lamp, Jim Lampley, Sean Lampy, Jacques Landau, Carl Landry, Marcus Lange, Mark Landsberg, Bill Lane, Jerome Lane, Andrew Lane, Antonio Lang, James Lag, Trajan Langdon, Dick Lange, Keith Langford, Romeo Langford, Dan Langhe, Bob Lanier, Stu Lentz, Nicolas Laprovitola, York Larisse, Shane Larkin, Rusty LaRue, Rudy LaRusso, John Laskowski, Stephane Lasme, Dave Letter, Dave Latin, Priest Lauderdale, Bill Laughlin, Rick Laurel, Henry Laurel, Walt Lautenbach, Rube Lautenschlager, Joffrey Lafringe, Tony Lavelli, Zach Levine, Bob LaRoe, AC Law, Vic Law, Gainey Lowell, Edmund Lawrence, Tim Lowry, Jason Lawson, Ty Lawson, Jake Lehman, Mo Layton, TJ Leaf, Manny Leaks, Hal Lear, Alan Leavewell, Jeff LeBeau, Eric Lechner, Jalen Leque, Ricky Ladeau, Butch Lee, Clyde Lee, Courtney Lee, Damian Lee, Dave Lee, Dick Lee, Doug Lee, George Lee, Greg Lee, Keith Lee, Kirk Lee, Lee, Malcolm Lee, Rock Lee, Ron Lee, Russ Lee, Seven Lee, Ed Lead, Sulika, Hank Lefkowitz, Tim Legler, George Lehman, Barry Lebowitz, Walt Lerman Jr., Alex Len, Vashov Leonard, Johnny Lenhart, Leary Lentz, Bob Leonard, Gary Leonard, Kawhi Leonard, Miles Leonard, Jim Les, Travis Leslie, Ronnie Lester, Clifford Lett. Halfway done the L's. I'm taking an L right now. John Lure, Andrew Levon, Fat Lever, Chris Levert, Sid Levine, Cliff Livingston, Ed Lewinsky, Bobby Lewis, Cedric Lewis, Fred Lewis, Freddie Lewis, Garland Lewis, Grady Lewis, Kira Lewis Jr., Martin Lewis, Mike Lewis, Quincy Lewis, Ralph Lewis, Rashad Lewis, Reggie Lewis, Scotty Lewis, Marcus Liberty, Todd Lishy, Sam Letterman, DeAndre Leggett, Bill Lagan, Jim Lagan, Carl Leja, Damian Lillard, Jeremy Lin, Bud Leonberg, Steve Lingenfeller, Leroy Lintz, Frank Linsky, Alton Leicester, Nasir Little, Sam Little, Gene Littles, Isaiah Livers, Raina Livingston, Sean Livingston, Rod Livingstone, Ross Lemons, Bill Lloyd, Bob Lloyd, Chuck Lloyd, R. Lloyd, Lewis Lloyd, Scott Lloyd, Rennie Lockman, Bob Legmuller, Rob Locke, Terrell Lockhart, Ian Lockhart, Kevin Loader, Don Lofgren, Zach Lofon, Henry Logan, Johnny Logan, Brad Loss, Art Long, Grant Long, John Long, Paul Long, Sean Long, Willie Long, Luck Long, Lee, Slim Lonsdorf, Kevin Looney, Brooke Lopez, Felipe Lopez, Rolo Lopez, Robin Lopez, Dale Loranger, Joe Lord, Gene Lorendo, Ryan Lothridge, Jim Los Cutoff, what? Plumber Lot, Sam Lux, Kevin Lahry, Bob Love, Kevin Love, Stan Love, I Stan Love too, Clyde Lovellette, Sidney Lowe, Charlie Luray, Kyle Lowry, Bobby Lothar, Carl Lloyd, Jordan Lloyd, Lucas, Jerry Lucas, John Lucas, John Lucas III, rip the middle kid, Colleen Lucas, Maurice Lucas, Ted Lucanbill, Tyron Luke, James Louisi, Al Lujak, Phil Lumpkin, Rye Lump, Gabriel Lundberg, Timothy Luawa Cabral. I love that guy. Tyler Loyan, Trey Lyles, RB Lynham, George Lynch, Kevin Lynch, Lonnie Lynch, Mike Lynn, and Bob Little. Let's go. On to M's. Sheldon Mack, Mike Macaluso, Ed Macaloya, oh, there's so many names. Oh my gosh. No, there's so many M's. I just realized. Alright, let's grind. Tab Maculo, Ronnie McGilvray, Scott Machado, Arviadas Masijuascas, Oliver Mack, Sam Mack, Shelton Mack, Malcolm McKee, Rudy McLean, Vernon McLean, Johnny Macnowski, Don McLean, Bob McLeod, Darren McCoon, Mark McCoon, JP Makura, Kyle Macy, Jack Maddox, Tito Maddox, Gerald Matkins, Mark Madsen, Norm Maggard, Josh Magat, Corey Magat, Dave Magley, Jamal Maglior, Will Magnay, Randolph Mahaffey, Ian Manimi, John Mankin, Brian Mahoney, Francis Mooney, Rick Mahorn, Dan Majoral, Ronaldo Major, Thon Maker, Paul Mackey, Red Malakani, Lionel Malamed, Eddie Malinowitz, Theo Maladon, Johnny Malakosh, Jeff Malone, Carl Malone, Moses Malone, Matt Maloney, Steve Malovich, Mike Malo, Sandro Mamerkelashvili, Ted Monakosh, John Mandich, Kareem Main, Frank Mangiapane, Terrence Mann, Trey Mann, Danny Manning, Ed Manning, Guy Manning, Rich Manning, Nico Manning, Rich Manning, Nico Mannion, Pace Mannion, Nick Mantis, Pete Maravich, Press Maravich, Devin Marble, Roy Marble, Stephen Marbury, Sarunas Marcio Leonis, Saul Mari Shin, Jack Marine, Sean Marion, Boban Marjanovic, Larry Marketing, Demir Markota, Sean Marks, Harvey Marlott, Jim Marsh, Ricky Marsh, Donnie Marshall, Danielle Marshall, Kendall Marshall, Najee Marshall, Raul Marshall, Tom Marshall, Vester Marshall, Bill Martin, Bob Martin, Brian Martin, Caleb Martin, Cardio Martin, Cody Martin, Quenzo Martin, Derek Martin, Dino Martin, Don Martin, Fernando Martin, Gerald Martin, Jeff Martin, Jeremiah Martin, Kalon Martin, Kenyon Martin Jr., Kevin Martin, Glaru Martin, Maurice Martin, Phil Martin, Slater Martin, Whitney Martin, Jamal Marshburn, Al Messino, Anthony Mason, Desmond Mason, Frank Mason III, Joel Mason, Roger Mason Jr., Tony Massenberg, Eddie Mast, Yante Mayton, Garrison Matthews, Magog Mathyang, Dakota Mathias, Johnny Mathis, Wes Matthews, Wesley Matthews, Ariel Mahon, Frank Murray, Marlon Maxey, Tyrese Maxey, Jason Maxiel, Cedric Maxwell, Vernon Maxwell, Don May, Scott May, Sean May, Lee Mayberry, Clyde Mayes, Theron Mayes, Bill Mayfield, Ken Mayfield, Eric Maynard, OJ Mayo, Skylar Mays, Travis Mays, Matt Mazal, Luke Maba, Amwa, DJ Mabinja, Johnny McAdams, Bob McAdoo, James Michael McAdoo, Ken McBride, Miles McBride, Bill McCahan, Tajir McCall, Ray McCollum Jr., Bob McCann, Brendan McCann, Mel McCantis, Rashad McCantis, Mike McCarron, Andre McCarter, Willie McCarter, Johnny McCarter, Howie McCarter, Kelly McCarter, Walter McCarty. Sorry, I messed up a couple of these. Andre McCarter, Willie McCarter, Johnny McCarthy, Howie McCarthy, Kelly McCarthy, Walter McCarty, Arnold McCallskill, Patrick McCall, Dwayne McLean, Ted McLean, Dan McClintock, Jack McCloskey, George McLeod, Mac McClung, CJ McCollum, Gordon McComb, John McConaughey, Bucky McConnell, TJ McConnell, Keith McCord, Tim McCormick, Jelani McCoy, Paul McCracken, Chris McCrae, Rodney McCrae, Scooter McCrae, Eric McCree, John McCullough, Chris McCullough, John McCullough, Clint McDaniel, Xavier McDaniel, Jada McDaniels, Jalen McDaniels, Jim McDaniels, KJ McDaniels, Bobby McDermott, Doug McDermott, Sean McDermott, Ben McDonald, Bill McDonald, Glenn McDonald, Michael McDonald, Roderick McDonald, Hank McDowell, Antonio McDias, Robert McElliott, Jim McElroy, Pat McFarland, Ivan McFarland, Mel McCartha, Mel McCaha, Mitch McGarry, JaVale McGee, Mike McGee, Bill McGill, George McGinnis, John McLaughlin, Vince McGowan, Tracy McGrady, Gil McGregor, Cameron McGriff, Ellen McGriff, Rodney McGruger, Al McGuire, Arlie McGuire, Dick McGuire, Dominic McGuire, Kevin McPhail, Maurice McCartley, Jim McLevany, Jim McLevane, Jeff McClinnis, Kennedy McIntosh, Bob McIntyre, Jerry McKee, Kevin McKenna, Forrest McKenzie, Stan McKenzie, Derek McKee, Aaron McKee, Bill McPhinney, Bones McKinney, Carlton McKinney, Trey McKinney, Trey McKinney Jones, Alfonso McKinney, Jacori McLaughlin, Jordan McLaughlin, Ben McLemore, McCoy McLemore, George McLeod, Keith McLeod, Rashawn McLeod, Kurt McMahon, Jack McMahon, Mike McMichael, Nate McMillan, Tom McMillan, Jim McMillan, Shelly McMillan. Halfway done the M's. Jeez, there's so many. Mal McMullen, Chet McNabb, Mark McNamara, Joe McNamee, Gerald McNeil, Chris McNeely, Bob McNeil, Larry McNeely, McNeil, Carl McNulty, Paul McPherson. My camera's getting tired on me. Come on, focus. Focus. I know we just did an hour. Focus. There we go. Oh, I gotta blow my nose too while I'm at it. Alright, we're done. Let's go, baby. Chet McNabb, Mark McNamara, Joe McNamee, Gerald McNeil, Chris McNeely, Bob McNeil, Larry McNeil, Carl McNulty, Pal McPherson, Roy McPipe, Cozell McQueen, Jordan McRae, Thalise McReynolds, Josh McRoberts, Eric McWilliams, Dean Mealy, George Miriams, Gene. Get out what I'm trying to read NBA player names. Gene Mitchling, Slava Medvedenko, Darnell Mead, Chick Mahan, Johnny Meeks, Cliff Mealy, Scott Means, Bernie Mahan, Dig Mahan, Don Minik, Minique, Carl Mainhold, Salah Mejri, Gal Meckel, Frank McCullis, Bill Melchiono, Gary Melchioni, Nicoli Melly, Fob Mello, D'Anthony Melton, Ed Melvin, Dean Memanger, Chuck Mansell, Murray Mendenhall Jr., John Mengelton, Mange Batir, Ken Ment, Pops Mensa, Bonsu, DeWitt, Menyard, Ron Mercer, Josie Merriweather, Porter Merriweather, Sam Merrill, Tom Sherry, Shumens Metu, Big Moose Mayer, Bill Mayer, Little Moose Mayer, yo what? Lauren Mayer, Tom Mayer, Dave Mayers, Ward Miller, Stan Misak, Larry McCall, Jordan Mickey, Chris Middleton, Ted McDowell, Red Mihalik, Chris Mim, Eric Mika, Ed McCon, George McCon, Larry McCon, Vern Mickelson, Al Meeksis, Aaron Miles, CJ Miles, Darius Miles, Eddie Miles, Marco Milicic, Darko Milicic, Nat Militos, Andre Miller, Anthony Miller, Bill Miller, Bob Miller, Brad Miller, Darius Miller, Dick Miller, Eddie Miller, Harry Miller, Jay Miller, Larry Miller, Malcolm Miller, Mike Miller, Oliver Miller, Quincy Miller, Reggie Miller, Walt Miller, Chris Mills, Ed Mills, Jack Mills, John Mills, Patty Mills, Terry Mills, Elijah Millsap, Paul Millsap, Shake Mill, and Harold Miner, Dirk Minifield, Dave Miner, Greg Miner, Mark Miner, Nikola Mirotic, Watara Misaka, Jason Miskiri, Davion Mitchell, Donovan Mitchell, Guy Mitchell, Leland Mitchell, Mike Mitchell, Murray Mitchell, Sam Mitchell, Tom Mitchell, Tony Mitchell, Nez Mitchell, Long, Steve Mix, Bill McVie, Conan Mobley, Eric Mobley, Evan Mobley, Doug Moe, Ed Moeller, Larry Moffitt, Leo Mungus, Nazir Mohammed, John Murray, John Moisicic, Jerome Moiso, Paul Mozecki, Alan Mokoka, Jack Molinas, Wayne Mullis, Sidney Moncrief, Eric Money, Sergi Monia, Malik Monk, El Monroe, Greg Monroe, Rodney Monroe, Louis Montero, Harry Montgomery, Jim Montgomery, Eric Montross, Bud Mooder, Moses Moody, Jamar Moody, Xavier Moody, Jim Moody, Matt Moody, Andre Moore, Ben Moore, Dudley Moore, Twan Moore, Gurjeen Moore, Jackie Moore, Johnny Moore, Larry Moore, Lois Moore, Nicky Moore, Otto Moore, Ron Moore, Tracy Moore, John Morant, Eric Moreland, Jackie Moreland, Dale Morey, Guy Morgan, Juan Morgan, Rex Morgan, L. Morgan Thaler, Darren Morningstar, Chris Morris, Darius Morris, Isaiah Morris, Jalen Morris, Marcus Morris, Markeith Morris, Max Morris, Monty Morris, Ron Randolph Morris, Terrence Morris, Adam Morrison, Emmett Morrison, John Morrison, Mike Morrison, Red Morrison, Anthony Morrow, George Morris, Ray Morstadt, Dwayne Morton, John Morton, Richard Morton, Al Moschetti, Glenn Mosley, Perry Moss, Lawrence Moten, Donatas Motajunas, Jonathan Motley, Hanno Motola, Arnett Moltrai, Pete Mount, Rick Malonto Morning, Timothy Moskoff, Chuck Mrazovich, Emmanuel Moutier, Irvin Mueller, Tex Mueller, Shabazz Muhammad, Michael Mulder, John Mulaney, Ed Mullen, Bob Mullins, Byron Mullins, Chris Mullen, Jeff Mullins, Bob Mulvihill, Todd Munt, Xavier Munford, Chris Monk, George Monroe, Eric Murdoch, George A. Morazan, Aid Murphy, Alan Murphy, Calvin Murphy, Dick Murphy, Eric Murphy, Jay Murphy, Ken Murphy, Ronnie Murphy, Todd Murphy, Trey Murphy III, Troy Murphy, Jante Murray, Ken Murray, Layman Murray, Ronald Murray, Tracy Murray, Willie Murrell, Dante Murray, Trey Murray, Dazanan Musa, Mike Muscala, Angela Musi, Gerard Mustaf, Dikembe Mutombo. Man, why is my nose running? Dikembe Mutombo, Martin Mursep, Pete Myers, and Svatoslav Mikhaliuk. Oh, these last names are always a treat. All right, on to ends. Let's go. Hamadi. All right, on to ends. Let's just restart. Man, I'm going delusional. Hamadi Nidaye, Makhtar Nidaye, Mamadou Nidaye, Boniface Nidong, Bob Nabir, Boshan Nashbar, Adbel Nader, John Nagel, Jake Nugod, Fritz Nagy, Lee Nellen, Eduardo Najira, Larry Nance Jr., Shabazz Napier, Paul Napolitan, Bob Nash, Cotton Nash, Steve Nash, Swin Nader, Howard Nathan, Calvin Nat, Kenny Nat, Willie Nullis, Juan Carlos Navarro, Maurice Nador, Craig Neal, Gary Neal, Jim Neal, Lloyd Neal, Ed Neal, Lyle Neal, Nemanja Nidovic, Al Negrati, George Nelmark, Barry Nelson, Mark Nelson, Don Nelson, Jammer Nelson, Louis Nelson, Ron Nelson, RJ Nemhard, Ruben Nemhard, Dig Nimaka, Nene, Tyrone Nesby, Aaron Nesmith, Martin Nestle, Rashal Nesterovic, Ralzinho Neto, Bob Netolicki, Bobby New, Johnny Newman, Paul Newman, Chuck Nevitt, Melvin Newburn, Avano Newbill, Ira Newbull, Mike Newland, Johnny Newman, Malik Newman, Dave Newman, Bill Newton, Georges Niang, Demetris Nichols, Jack Nichols, Oren Nichols, Andrew Nicholson, Galen Nickerson, Carl Nix, Rich Neiman, Richie Namira, Mike Niles, Kurt Nymphius, Fred Nims, Tommy Nisbet, Dashawn Nix, Dyron Nix, Norm Nixon, Zeke Najai, Joakim Noah, Chuck Noble, Andres Nocioni, David Noel, Nerlens Noel, Paul Noel, Lucas Noguera, Jim Nolan, Paul Nolan, Jeff Nordegard, Bevo Nordman, Irv Noren, Johnny Norlander, Coniel Norman, Ken Norman, Audie Norris, Mushi Norris, Sylvester Norris, Woody Norris, Zach Norvell Jr., Willie Norwood, George Nostrand, Stan Noska, Mike Novak, Steve Novak, John Novotny, Paul Nowak, Jalen Noel, Mel Noel, Dirk Nowitzki, Frank Notikina, Bob Nugent, Kendrick Nunn, James Nunali, Yusuf Nurkic, Dennis Nutt, David Nawaba, Jordan Nwora, Julius Nwosu. Onto the O's. Charles O'Bannon, Ed O'Bannon, John O'Boyle, Bob O'Brien, Jim O'Brien, JJ O'Brien, John O'Brien, Ralph O'Brien, Tommy O'Brien, Johnny O'Brien, Patrick O'Brien, Dermy O'Connell, Connie O'Connell, Andy O'Donnell, Jim O'Donnell, Neil O'Donnell, Buddy O'Grady, Fran O. Hanlon, Dick O'Keefe, Tommy O'Keefe, Hank O'Keefe, Mike O'Corn, Grady O'Malley, Jermaine O'Neal, Shaquille O'Neal, Royce O'Neal, Mike O'Neal, Kyle O'Quinn, Bud O'Rourke, Bob O'Shaughnessy, Kevin O'Shea, Garland O'Shields, Dan O'Sullivan, Tom O'Toole, Charles Oakley, Red Oberbrunner, Jack Oberst, Fabrizio Alberto, Daniel Orshofu, Russ Oceansenhert, Greg Oden, Lamar Odom, Bud Ogden, Ralph Ogden, Alan Og, Don Ol, Tim Olbrecht, Semi Ojale, Emeka Okafor, Jaleel Okafor, Bust, Chuma Okeke, Eli Okobo, Josh Okagi, Onyeka Okongwu, what? Isaac Okoro, KZ Okpala, Mehmet Okur, Victor Oladipo, Hakeem Olajuwon, Mark Olberding, Juan Oldham, John Oldham, Frank Olenek, John Olive, Brian Oliver, Cameron Oliver, Dean Oliver, Jimmy Oliver, Vince Oliver, Kevin Oliver, Gene Oltridge, Michael Olowakandi, Bolt Olson, Jim Olson, Oscar Olson, Kelly Olenek, Eugene Omarui, Mia Oni, Arizin Onuaku, Chinanu Onuaku, Bernard Oper, Eddie Aram, Barry Orms, Johnny Orr, Luis Orr, Jose Ortiz, Daniel Orton, Chuck Osborne Lee, Leo Osiwalski, Seti Osman, Wally Osterkorn, Greg Ostertag, Matt Othick, Donna and Mac and Daniel Otoro, Frank Odway, Kelly Obrey Jr., Bo Outlaw, Travis Outlaw, Claude Overton, Tug Overton, Andre Owens, Bill Owens, Chris Owens, Eddie Owens, Jim Owens, Keith Owens, Larry Owens, Red Owens, Tariq Owens, Tom Owens, Ray Owens. These last names again. Olumide Oyedeji. Come on, camera. Stop getting tired on me. I'm the one that's tired, not you. You're a robot slash artificial. I don't know. Jack Osborne is the last name, but I'm not focused right now. Focus on me. How do I get it to do it? Like this. We get it. You've been recording for a while. All right, there we go. Jack Osborne was the last O name. Now we're on to P's and Q's. And there's like no Q's. Here we go. Joe Pace, Zaza Pachula, Robert Pack, Wayne Pack, Gerald Padillo, Scott Paget, Dana Paget, Scott Paget, Justine Page, Marcus Page, Fred Payne, Milt Palacio, Togo Palazzi, Bud Palmer, Earl Palmer, Jim Palmer, Trayvon Palmer, Walter Palmer, Kevin Pangos, Andy Panko, Georgios Papagiannis, Kostas Papanikolaou, Jenny Pango, Jeremy Pango, Easy Param, Robert Parrish, Med Park, Anthony Park, Jabari Parker, Simish Parker, Sony Parker, Tony Parker, Barry Parkhill, Jack Parkinson, Charles Parks, Cherokee Parks, Rick Parks, Jack Park, Doyle Parrick, Eddie Perry, Charles Parsley, Bob Parsons, Chandler Parsons, Eric Paschal, Anzias Pasajinix, Pete Pasco, Zarko Paspaji, Marty Pasagilia, George Pastushuk, Joe Patinelli, Miles Patrick, Stan Patrick, Andrea Patterson, George Patterson, Lamar Patterson, Patrick Patterson, Ray Patterson, Ruben Patterson, Steve Patterson, Tom Patterson, Worthy Patterson, Justin Patton, Brandon Paul, Chris Paul, Charlie Pollock, Jerry Paulson, Billy Palt, Sasha Pavlovich, Johnny Palk, Steve Palk, Jim Paxson Sr., John Paxson, John Payek, Adrian Payne, Cameron Payne, Kenny Payne, Tom Payne, Alfred Payton, Gary Payton II, Mel Payton, George Piercy, Henry Piercy, Oleski, Pisharov, Willie Peck, Pete Penderson, Rich Peak, Anthony Peeler, George Peeples, Nikola Pikovic, Jake Pelikington, Norvey Pell, Sam Pellorin, Mike Penberthy, Jerry Pender, Desmond Pennyjar, Kirk Penny, Mike Peplowski, Will Purdue, William Parejo, Kendrick Perkins, Sam Perkins, Warren Perkins, Costa Provich, London Prontis, Oja Perry, Charles Perry, Curtis Perry, Elliot Perry, Reggie Perry, Ron Perry, Tim Perry, Chuck Pearson, Wesley Person, Alec Peters, Jim Peterson, Lloyd Peterson, Bob Peterson, Ed Peterson, Mel Peterson, Morris Peterson, Jeff Petre, Johan Petro, Drazen Petrovic, Richard Prechuka, Bob Petit, Jerry Petway, Tony Payton, Squint Ferrace. Interesting. Halfway on P. Roger Fegley, Jack Phelan, Jim Phelan, Derek Phelps, Mike Phelps, nice. Andy Phillip, Bob Phillips, Eddie Phillips, Gary Phillips, Gene Phillips, Willie Phillips, Bobby Phyllis, Jack Plana, Eric Plank, Eric Piatkowski, Walt Piatkowski, interesting. Jamarco Pickett, Paul Pierce, Ricky Pierce, Stan Pietkiewicz, Mikhail Pietrus, John Pilch, Ed Pickney, Kevin Pickney, John Pignon, Theo Pinson, Dave Piontek, Tom Piotrowski, Scotty Pittman, Charles Pittman, Derek Stir Pittman, Woody Putzer, Eric Plain, Plan, Zoran Planich, Tibor, what? I've never seen that B used like that. Tibor Plaib, what? Marshall Plumley, Mason Plumley, Miles Plumley, Gary Plumber, Pavel Podkolzin, Vincent Poirier, Alexej Pokusevsky, Dwayne Poley, Jim Pollard, Scott Pollard, Ralph Polson, Jacob Podell. Nice. Olden Polinice, John Punsar, Cliff Poindexter, Quincy Poindexter, Shamori Pons, Yevs Pons, Jordan Poole, David Pope, Mark Pope, Dave Popson, Ben Poquet, Chris Porter, Howard Porter, Jonte Porter, Kevin Porter Jr., Michael Porter Jr., Arda Porter, Terry Porter, Willie Porter, Bobby Portis, Bob Portman, Kristaps Porzingis, Johnny Postwitz, Scoop Postwitz, James Posey, Lou Postner, Lavor Pastel, John Postley, Vitaly Potapenko, Mika Potter, Leon Powell, Cincy Powell, Dwight Powell, Josh Powell, Kasib Powell, Longy Powell, Miles Powell, Norman Powell, Roger Powell, Alex Poitras, Malbert Prad, Irv Pressey, Mike Pratt, Pete Preboski, Paul Presley, Phil Presley, Babe Presley, Dominic Presley, Harold Presley, Steve Previs, AJ Price, L Price, Bernie Price, Brent Price, Jim Price, Mark Price, Mike Price, Paul Price, Ronnie Price, Tony Price, Bob Pretty, Pablo Prigioni, Joshua Primo, Tarian Prince, Tashawn Prince, John Pritchard, Kevin Pritchard, Peyton Pritchard, Lorvin Proctor, Cy Prophet, Laren Prophet, Joe Proxa, Gabe Prate, Red Pryor, Joel Priesbilla, Les Pugh, Roy Pugh, Anthony Pollard, Jacob Pullen, Rodney Purvis, Don Pletman, and Scoop Putnam. Now for the cues. Let's see if I can do this one in one breath. Here we go. All the cues. Here we go. Dave Quabius, Tim Quarterman, Trevlin Queen, Nemus Quetta, Bob Quick, Emmanuel Quickly, Jim Quinlan, Bart Quinn, Chris Quinn, Brian Quinnett. That was easy. There's only 10 names. All right, time for the R's. How many letters? We got 6 letters left. Let's go. Oh, there's a lot of R's. There is a lot of R's, and I'm feeling there's going to be a lot of S's as well. All right, here we go for the R's. Ivan Rabb, Luther Rackley, Howie Rader, Len Rader, Mark Radford, Wayne Redford, Dino Rada, Vladimir Radmanovich, Alexander Radojevic, Frank Radovich, Mo Radovich, Miroslav Raduljica, Ray Radzisuski, Jim Ray, Ray Ragelis, Sherwin Riken, Stain Raymond, Ed Raines, Igor Rakosevich, Kurt Rambis, Peter John Ramos, Cal Ramsey, Frank Ramsey, Jamuis Ramsey, Ray Ramsey, Mark Randall, Chason Randall, Julius Randall, Anthony Randolph, Shavlik Randolph, Zach Randolph, Wally Rank, Kelvin Rancy, Sam Ronzino, Bobby Rusko, Blair Rasmussen, Xavier Rathan Mays, George Ratkovich, Ed Ratliff, Mike Ratliff, Theo Ratliff, Andy Ratkins, Leo Raltons, Alan Ray, Clifford Ray, Don Ray, James Ray, Jim Ray, Jimmy Rayle, Craig Raymond, Connie Ray, Austin Reeves, Joe Reeves, Josh Reeves, Zelko Rebraka, Eldridge Ray Kansar, Michael Red, Cam Reddish, Frank Reddout, JJ Reddick, Marlon Redmond, Billy Reed, Dave and Reed, Hub Reed, Justin Reed, Paul Reed, Ron Reed, Willie Reed, Willis Reed, Bill Reeves, Brian Reeves, Khalid Reeves, Richie Regan, Bob Ray, Don Rayfeld, Fred Ram, Billy Reed, Don Reed, Jerry Reed, Jim Reed, Naz Reed, Robert Reed, Ryan Reed, Jared Reiner, Chris, Chick Reiser, Rube Racewerg, Marty Retter, Richard Relford, Terrence Ranger, John Renick, Bob Rensberger, Ephthemios Rentzias, Sean Rispert, Kevin Rasanti, Cameron Reynolds, George Reynolds, Jerry Reynolds, Kendall Ryan, Shane Rhodes, Roger Rhodes, Del Rice, Glenn Rice Jr., Tommy Rich, Chris Richard, Nick Richards, Clint Richardson, Jason Richardson, Jimmy Richardson, Josh Richardson, Malachi Richardson, Michael Ray Richardson, Norman Richardson, Pooh Richardson, Quentin Richardson, O.C. Ritchie, Mitch Richmond, John Richard, Dick Ridditz, Isaiah Ryder, Jackie Ridgell, Luke Ridenauer, Bill Rab, Mel Rab, Bobby Reddy, Jim Riffy, Antoine Rigadois, Ted Reiger, Tim Tom Riker, Bob Riley, Eric Riley, Pat Riley, Ron Riley, Grant Ryler, Rich Rinaldi, Mike Riordan, Arnie Ryson, Eddie Riska, Tex Ritter, Roman Rivas, Austin Rivers, David Rivers, Doc Rivers, yes sir, halfway done the R's. Jewel Rivlin, Jerry Rizzo, Red Robbins, Lee Robbins, J. Robertson, Anthony Robertson, Rick Robertson, Terrence Robertson, Anthony Roberts, Bill Roberts, Brian Roberts, Fred Roberts, Glenn Roberts, Joe Roberts, Lawrence Roberts, Marv Roberts, Stanley Roberts, Wyman Roberts, Alvin Robertson, Oscar Robertson, Ryan Robertson, Tony Robertson, Rick Ruby, Bernard Robinson, Chris Robinson, Cliff Robertson, Clifford Robinson, David Robinson, Devin Robinson, Doug Robinson, Eddie Robinson, Flynn Robertson, Glenn Robinson III, Jack Robinson, wait, what? Jamal Robinson, James Robinson, Jerome Robinson, Justin Robinson, Larry Robinson, Mitchell Robinson, Nate Robinson, Oliver Robinson, Ronnie Robinson, Romeo Robinson, Sam Robinson, Thomas Robinson, Truck Robinson, Wayne Robinson, Will Robinson, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, Bill Robinson, Dave Robish, Isaiah Ruby, Red Rochad, John Roch, Gene Rock, Jack Rocker, Guy Rogers, Dennis Rodman, Abel Rodriguez, Sergio Rodriguez, Lou Rowe, Carlos Rogers, Harry Rogers, Johnny Rogers, Marshall Rogers, Rodney Rogers, Roy Rogers, Willie Rogers, Al Rogers, Ken Roloff, Kenny Rollins, Phil Rollins, Jerry Rollins, Lorenzo Romar, Rajon Rondo, Jenny Rook, Sean Rooks, Pat Rooney, Sway Rooney, Derek Rose, Jalen Rose, Malik Rose, Robert Rose, P.D. Rosenberg, Lenny Rosenbluth, Hank Rosenstein, Dick Rosenthal, Gene Rosenthal, Quentin Ross, Terrence Ross, Carl Roth, Doug Roth, Scott Roth, Irv Rothenberg, Les Rothman, Mickey Rotner, Dan Roundfield, Jeff Raux, Ron Rowan, Curtis Rowe, Jim Rowinski, Derek Rowland, Brian Rowson, Brandon Roy, Donald Roy, Reggie Royals, Bob Royer, Clifford Rozier, Terry Rozier, Ricky Rubio, Guy Rucker, Jean Rudez, Delaney Rudd, John Rudd, Rex Rudisell, John Rudo, Metkin, Michael Riffin, Trevor Rifflin, Paul Riffner, Clem Rue, Joe Rucklick, Jeff Ruland, Bob Rule, Jerry Rulo, George Rung, Stefano Rusconi, Brandon Rush, Kareem Rush, Mal Rush, Bill Russell, Byron Russell, Campy Russell, Kazi Russell, D'Angelo Russell, Frank Russell, Pierre Russell, Ruben Russell, Walker Russell Jr., Lou Rudder, and Matt Ryan. That's the easiest last name in each section we've had. Now time for the S's. Oh my gosh, no, that's a lot. Oh my gosh, no. Okay. Strap in. S's, and then we just got 4 letters left. Let's go. Frank Sabo, Arvidia Simonis, Damontas Simonis, Ed Sachs, Frank Saxey. Why am I doing this? I just realized. I'm going insane. Frank Saxey, Leo Sack, Robert Sacre, Ed Sadowski, Eddie Sadowski, Junior Safer, Ken Sailors, John Saley, John Salmons, Al Salvadori, Kevin Salvadori, Surmaila Samaki, Luka Samanic, Cheek Sam, Brandon Simpson, Chakar Sampson, Jamal Simpson, Ralph Sampson, Samardo Samuels, Pepe Sanchez, Al Sanders, Frankie Sanders, Jeff Sanders, Larry Sanders, Melvin Sanders, Mike Sanders, Seth Sanders, Ron Stanford, Daniel Santiago, Bob Santini, Wayne Sepulton, Dario Sarge, Oliver Sarge, Jason Sasser, Gerald Sasser, Kenny Satterfield, Bay Satier, Louis Swow, Frank Saul, Woody Salisbury, Glenn Salters, Fred Saunders, Rusty Saunders, Don Savage, Predrag, Savovich, Alan Sawyer, Brian Scalabrini, Alex Scales, Dwayne Scales, Ted oh my gosh, why am I having a hard time? Ted Sacalisi, Jack Scary, Frank, yeah, that word was scary. Frank Shade, Ben Shadler, Herm Schaefer, Billy Schaefer, Bob Schaefer, Jordan Schackel, Benny Schau, Ben Shamus, Marv Shadesman, Fred Schwass, Danny Shays, Dolph Shays, O.C. Sedgman, Herb Scheffler, Steve Scheffler, Tom Scheffler, Ed Schwell, Dave Chesalse, Luke Chesner, Herb Scherzer, John Schick, Dwayne Shintzwis, Glenn Schlechte, Dale Schluter, Otto Schnellbacher, Dick Schneitker, Russ Schno, Admiral Schnofield, Dave Scholes, Gene Scholes, Milt Schoon, Bill Schrader, Warren Schrage, Al Schreiker, Delif Schrempf, Bill Schroeder, Dennis Schroeder, Wilbur Schuh, Herm Schussler, Howie Schultz, Dick Schultz, Wilbur Schumacher, Roger Schrieg, Bob Schwartz, John Schweitz, Louis Scola, Fred Scolari, Alvin Scott, Brent Scott, Byron Scott, Charlie Scott, Dennis Scott, James Scott, Joe Scott, Mike Scott. That's what the Sixers announcer would say. Ray Scott, Chanel Scott, Trevin Scott, Willie Scott, Paul Scranton, Jay Scrub, Carrie Scurry, Bruce Seal, Shay Seals, Malik Sealy, Tom Sealy, Ed Cersei, Ken Sears, Johnny Sebastian, Wayne C. It's like, hey, yo, wait and see. Wayne C. All right, my bad. Tabo Cefalo Shot. Can you tell I'm going crazy? Ronnie Saikali, Glenn Selbo, Josh Selby, Wayne Selden Jr., Brad Sellers, Phil Sellers, Raleigh Sets, Les Selvage, Frank Selvey, Jim Samnoff, Mohamed Sain, George Sineski, Alprin Sengun, Kevin Serafin, Ansu Sase, Raymond Sessions, Tom Saywell, Colin Sexton, Paul Seymour, Nick Shabak, Lynn Shackelford, Charles Shackelford, Bob Shaddock, Carl Schaefer, Jack Schaefer, Lee Schaefer, Mustafa Shakur, Frank Sharmel, Landry Shamit. I have his jersey. God? Shamgod? How is that real? Chuck Shanklin, Earl Shannon, Frank Shannon, Howie Shannon, Chuck Scher, Steve Sharkley, Bill Sharman, Daron Sharp, Walter Sharp, John Shasky, Ronnie Shavlik, Bob Shaw, Brian Shaw, Casey Shaw, Murray Shaka, Shayok, Bob Shea, Fred Sheffield, Craig Shelton, Lonnie Shelton, Tony Shengelia, Billy Shepard, Jeff Shepard, Steve Shepard, Edmund Sherrod, Charlie Ship, Paul Shirley, Ollie Schoaf, Gene Short, Purvis Short, Slim Shown, Dexter Schaus, Dick Schreider, what? Gene Shu, John Shermate, Iman Shumpert. Now I'm on like Shumpert. Pascal Siakam, Alexei Shved, Pascal Siakam, Jordan Silbert, Sam Silbert, Mark Sibley, Jenny Sting, Don Seidel, Vic Seigel, Larry Seigfred, Ralph Stewart, Jack Sigma, James Silas, Paul Silas, Xavier Silas, Jonas Seiler, Mike Silliman, Chris Silva, Marcos Luzada Silva, Wayne Simeon, the man who should not be named, partially responsible for me doing this. I'm not going to say it, I'll spell it. Ben space Simmons. He's a quitter. I'm not saying his name. I'm not quitting through this, by the way. Bobby Simmons, Cedric Simmons, Connie Simmons, Grant Simmons, John Simmons, Jonathan Simmons, Kobe Simmons, Lionel Simmons, Miles Simon, Walt Simon, Marco Simonich, Unfree Simons, Dickie Simpson, Ralph Simpson, Xavier Simpson, Alvin Sims, Bob Sims, Courtney Sims, Doug Sims, Henry Sims, Jericho Sims, Scott Sims, John Sines, Kyle Singler, Sean Singletary, Chris Singleton, James Singleton, McKinley Singleton, Zeke Sinoka, Delvidas, Servidas, Steve Sicko, Charlie Saton, Peyton Silva, Bob Scarda, Scott Skiles, Al Skinner, Brian Skinner, Talvin Skinner, Myra Scood, Press Slack, Jeff Slade, Reggie Slater, Jim Slaughter, Jose Slaughter, Tamar Slade, Donald Sloan, and Jerry Sloan. Halfway done the S's. I think this is the longest one. Whew. Euros Slokar, Tom Sluby, Alan Smailagic, Javante Smart, Keith Smart, Marcus Smart, not smart at all, Bellis Smalley, Danny Smick, Jack Smiley, Adrian Smith, Al Smith, Bill Smith, Bingo Smith, Bobby Smith, Charles Smith, Chris Smith, Clinton Smith, Craig Smith, Deb Smith, Dennis Smith Jr., Derek Smith, Don Smith, Dante Smith, Doug Smith, Ed Smith, Elmore Smith, Garfield Smith, Greg Smith, Ish Smith, J.R. Smith, Jabbar Smith, Jalen Smith, Jason Smith, Jerry Smith, Jim Smith, Joe Smith, John Smith, Keith Smith, Ken Smith, Kenny Smith, Bradford Smith, Larry Smith, Michael Smith, Mike Smith, Nolan Smith, Otis Smith, Pete Smith, Phil Smith, Randy Smith, Reggie Smith, Robert Smith, Russ Smith, Sam Smith, Steve Smith, Steven Smith, Theron Smith, Tony Smith, Willie Smith, William Smith, Willie Smith, Zare Smith, phew. Rick Smits, Mike Schmreck, what? Joe Smith, bruh. Xavier Sneed, Tony Snell, Eric Snow, Bello Snyder, Dick Snyder, Kirk Snyder, Chip Sobek, Ricky Sobers, Ron Sobiosizik, Mike Sejoner, Willie Sejoner, Paul Sakoti, Will Solomon, Willie Somerset, Darius Songala, Harry Sorensen, Dave Sorensen, Joe Sotak, James Sutherland, Gino Servan, Pepso, Ken Spain, Ray Spalding. Oh, nice. Jim Spanarkle, Vasilis Spanolis, Dan Sparks, Guy Sparrow, Rory Sparrow, Odie Spears, Art Spector, Maurice Spates, Omari Spellman, Andre Spencer, Elmore Spencer, Dalton Spencer, Jack Spencer, Lou Spicer, Craig Spitzer, Tiago Splitter, Art Spolstra, Edward Spotovich, Bruce Spraggins, Latrell Spraywell, Larry Spriggs, Jaden Springer, Jim Spruill, Joe Spodek, Joe Slack, Ryan Stack, Jerry Stackhouse. Sorry, it's Joe Stack, not Joe Slack. Joe Stack, Ryan Stack, Jerry Stackhouse, Kevin Stacombe, Irv Staggs, Bud Stallworth, Dave Stallworth, Howard Stamler, Joseph Stamp, Ed Stanzak, Walt Stanley Stanky, Cassia Stanley, Terrence Stansbury, Jack Shanton, Clovis Stark, John Starks, Keith Starr, Dick Starsk, Nick Stauskas, Larry Staverman, Larry Steele, Ed Steege, Matt Stejena, Jerry Steiner, Vladimir Stepania, John Stevens, Ben Stevens, DJ Stevens, Everett Stevens, Jack Stevens, Joe Stevens, Lance Stevenson, Alex Stevenson, Brooke Steppe, Barry Stevens, Lamar Stevens, Wayne Stevens, Deshaun Stevenson, Dennis Stewart, Isaiah Stewart, Kevin Stewart, Larry Stewart, Michael Stewart, Norm Stewart, Greg Stiemsma, Steve Spitanovich, Jack Sterling, Bryant Smith, Sam Smith, Tom Smith, Alex Stevrins, David Stockton, John Stockton, Art Stofan, Peja Stojakovic, Ed Stokes, Greg Stokes, Jamel Stokes, Maurice Stokes, Art Stolke, Randy Stoll, Desmond Bain, George Stone, Julian Stone, Alvi Story, Damon Stoudemire, Salim Stoudemire, Amare Stoudemire, Marvin Stout, Paul Stovall, Dave Strack, Ted Strain, Reno Strand, DJ Strawberry, Joe Strauder, Bill Stricker, Eric Strickland, Mark Strickland, Rod Strickland, Roger Strickland, Joe Stroder, Derek Strong, Ted Strong, Lamont Stroud, John Stroud, Rod Stroud, or I guess Rad Stroud, Chet Strumillo, Max Struess, I remember him, Rodney Stuckey, Gene Stump, Stanley Stutz, John Styler, Sally Sudeth, Kenny Susens, Jalen Suggs, Gary Swider, Jared Solinger, Bob Sullivan, Bill Summerix, DeJohn Summers, Edmund Sumner, Barry Sumter, Sonyu Don, Sunderlaj, Bruno Sundrov, John Sundvold, Bob Sura, Dick Surhoff, George Suter, Dane Suttle, Greg Sutton, George Svensson, Keith Swaggerty, Benny Swarms, Keith Swaggerty, Benny Swain, Caleb Swanigan, Everett Swank, Dwayne Swanson, Hale Swanson, Norm Swanson, Dan Schwartz, Michael Sweetney, Robert Swift, Skeeter Swift, Stormile Swift, Willard Swihart, Aaron Swinson, Craig Sword, Pape Sy, Buck Sydnor, Kiefer Sykes, Larry Sykes, Bob Sinat, Brett Szabo, Walt Scissor Wally Scissor, dude, how can you have 4 consonants in a row in your name? Walt Scissorbiak, Wally Scissorbiak, Stan Suzukala. That's it for the S's. Wow, that was probably the longest. All right, now for T and V. Here we go. Or T and U. Zan Tabak, Yuda Tabus, Chris Taft, Shelso Tamango, Sid Tannenbaum, Dragon Tarlash, Roy Tarpley, Laverne Tart, Jayshawn Tate, Earl Tatum, Jason Tatum, Waiter Tavares, Anthony Taylor, Brian Taylor, Donnell Taylor, Fatty Taylor, Fred Taylor, Jay Taylor, Jeff Taylor, Jeffrey Taylor, Isaiah Taylor, Jermaine Taylor, Johnny Taylor, Leonard Taylor, Maurice Taylor, Mike Taylor, Audie Taylor, Ron Taylor, Terry Taylor, Tyshawn Taylor, Vince Taylor, Terry Tiggle, Jeff Teague, Marquise Teague, Mirza Teletovic, Sebastian Telfair, Chorus Temple, Garrett Temple, Milos Teodosic, Irving Tarjasan, Ira Terrell, Jared Terrell, Carlos Terry, Chuck Terry, Claude Terry, Emmanuel Terry, Jason Terry, Tyrell Terry, Ray Terzinski, John Tesk, Hashim Thabit, Tom Thaker, Floyd Thayer, Daniel Theus, Reggie Thos, Peter Thibault, Bill Thibin, Justus Thigpen, David Thirdkill, Adronis Thomas, Billy Thomas, Broderick Thomas, Cameron Thomas, Carl Thomas, Charles Thomas, Earl Thomas, Eden Thomas, Irving Thomas, Isaiah Thomas, Jamel Thomas, James Thomas, Jim Thomas, Joe Thomas, John Thomas, Kenny Thomas, Kyrie Thomas, Kurt Thomas, Lance Thomas, Malcolm Thomas, Matt Thomas, Ron Thomas, Terry Thomas, Tim Thomas, Tyrus Thomas, Willis Thomas, Trey Tompkins, Bernard Thompson, Bill Thompson, Billy Thompson, Brooke Thompson, Corny Thompson, David Thompson, Dijon Thompson, George Thompson, Hollis Thompson, Homer Thompson, Jack Thompson, Jason Thompson, John Thompson, Kevin Thompson, Clay Thompson, Kevin Thompson, LaSalle Thompson, Michael Thompson, Mikkel Thompson, and that's halfway down the T's, much shorter than the S. Paul Thompson, Stephen Thompson, Tristan Thompson, J.T. Thor, wow. Skip Thornton, Rod Thornton, Al Thornton, Bob Thornton, Dallas Thornton, Jack Thornton, Marcus Thornton, Sindarius Thornwell, Otis Thorpe, Sadell Threat, Nate Thurmond, Mel Thurston, Matisse Thibault. He called me my friend one time on Instagram. Milt Tico, Hal Tidrich, Dan Timon. Jeez, my eyes are going numb. Killen Tilly, Darren Tillis, Xavier Tillman, Killian Tilly, Darren Tillis, Xavier Tillman, Jack Tingle. 1 second. Jack Tingle, George Tinsley, Jamal Tinsley, Wayman Tisdale, Mike Toby, Paul Tobin, Isaiah Todd, Mike Todorich, Ray Tolbert, Thorne Tolbert, Anthony Tolliver, Chet Tolston, Dean Tolson, Rudy Tomjanovich, Andrew Tony, Cedric Tony, Andy Tonkovich, Andy Tolson, Jack Toomey, Bernard Toon, Obi Toppin, Irv Torgoff, Bumper Torm Olin, Oscar Torres, Juan Toscano Anderson, Bill Tolchef, Bob Tuff, fire name, Axel Tupain, I just watched Thor Love and Thunder, Monte Tao, trash movie by the way, Keith Tower, Carlisle Towery, Linton Towns, Carl Anthony Towns, Johnny Townsend, Raymond Townsend, George Trapp, John K. Trapp, Robert Taylor, Gary Trent Jr., Jeff Trepagnier, John Tresvant, Alonzo Trier, Dick Triptow, Kelly Tripuka, Ansley Kazari Tribansky, Jake Kalidis, John Shogol, Lou Tesoro Polis, Nikolov Tiskitchvili, Al Tucker, Alonzo Tucker, Anthony Tucker, Jim Tucker, PJ Tucker, Rajon Tucker, Trent Tucker, Ronnie Turaf, Mirsad Turkan, Hito Turkoglu, Andre Turner, Bill Turner, Elston Turner, Evan Turner, Gary Turner, Henry Turner, Herschel Turner, Jack Turner, Jeff Turner, John Turner, Miles Turner, Wayne Turner, Melvin Turpin, Dave Twardzik, Jack Twyman, PJ Tyler, Jeremy Tyler, Terry Tyler, and Charlie Tyra. Time for use. Okay, this one only has about 14 words, so I'm going to do it in one breath. Here we go. Edwin U. Biles, Mo Udal, Ekbi Udo, Ime Udoka, Benno Udre, Rocco Ukich, Tyler Ulis, Wes Unseld, Hal Uplinger, Kelvin Upshaw, Joe Urso, Tim Ursi, Jared Uthoff, and Ben Uzo. I'm like that. All right, time for the V's. Not too many of these, but it should take a little bit. Oh, these all look annoying to pronounce. Steve Vasindak, Jonas Valanciunas, Darnell Valentine, Denzel Valentine, Ronnie Valentine, John Valeli, Dick Van Arstel, Tom Van Arstel, Butch Van Breda Kolf, Jan Van Breda Kolf, Gene Vance, Jared Vanderbilt, Augie Vander Meulen, Logan Vander Velden, Ernie Van de Weh, Kiki Van de Weh, Nick Van Exel, Keith Van Horn, Matt Vaniel, Norm Van Leer, Nick Vanos, David Vanterpool, Fred Van Vliet, Dennis Van Zant, Ratko Varda, Anderson Varijo, Jarvis Varnado, Gravis Vasquez, Devin Vassell, Chico Vaughn, David Vaughn Jr., David Vaughn the third. Okay, nice. First time I've seen the name, the junior, and the third make it. Jacque Vaughn, halfway done. Ralph Vaughn, Rashad Vaughn, Virgil Vaughn. Man, I need some water. Loy Vaught, Bob Berga, Peter Verhoeven. Jan Vesely, there's a guy named Jan. Gundars Vetra, Joao Viana, Luca Vildoza, Charlie Villanueva, Gabe Vincent, Jay Vincent, Sam Vincent, Marcus Vinsuis, Fred Vincent, Claude Verdon, Gary Vos, Howard Volk, Floyd Volkin, Alexander Volkov, Noah Von Le, Whitney Von Nida, Bernie Voorhees, Jake Voskull, Danny Vrains, Slavko Vrains, Stojo Vrankovic, Brad Vroman, Jackson Vroman, Nikola Vucevic, Sacha Vucakic, and Frank Vukosik. We're done the V's, baby. Let's freaking go. Now we're just on W and Z. Oh no, there's a lot of W's. W, Y, and Z. But this is the last page. Or W, sorry, this is W and X and Y and Z. Alright, last page. Let's do it, baby. Here we go. Vaughn Waddell, Dean Wade, Dwayne Wade, Mark Wade, Von Wafer, Clint Wager, Dejon Wagner, Danny Wagner, Franz Wagner, Milt Wagner, Mortz Wagner, Norm Wagner, Phil Wagner, Ish Wainwright, Dion Waiters, Granville Waiters, Andre Wakefield, Neil Valk, Andy Walker, Anton Walker, Bill Walker, Brady Walker, Chet Walker, Darrell Walker, Foots Walker, Horace Walker, Jimmy Walker, Campbell Walker, Lonnie Walker, MJ Walker, Phil Walker, Samaki Walker, Wally Walker, John Wall, Ben Wallace, Gerald Wallace, John Wallace, Paul Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Red Wallace, Tyron Wallace, Dwight Waller, Jamie Waller, Don Walsh, Jim Walsh, Matt Walsh, Ken Walters, Rex Walters, Paul Walther, Isaiah Walthor, Bill Walton, Derek Walton, Jack Walton, Lloyd Walton, Luke Walton, Brad Wanamaker, Wang Zizi, Bobby Wanzer, Perry Warbington. That's an easy word. Perry Warbington, Charlie Ward, Jerry Ward, Henry Ward, Casper Ware, Jim Ware, Dave Wareham, Ben Worley, Bob Warlick, Cornell Warner, Jamil Warney, Don Warnk, Bob Warren, John Warren, TJ Warren, Willie Warren, Byron Warwick, Hakeem Warwick, Chris Washburn, Julian Washburn, Bobby Washington, Darius Washington, Donald Washington, Dwayne Washington Jr., Dwayne Pearl Washington, Eric Washington, Jim Washington, Kermit Washington, PJ Washington, Richard Washington, Stan Washington, Trooper Washington, Wilson Washington, Zana West, Utah Wannabe. Oh my gosh, it's a fire name. Utah Wannabe? It's like, yeah, Utah Wannabe. Lindy Walters III, imagine being named Lindy, sorry. Lindy Walters III, Tremont Walters, Trendon Waltford, Daryl Watkins, Jack Wool, Watkins, Bobby Watson, CJ Watson, Chubb Watson, Earl Watson, Jamie Watson, Paul Watson, Ron Watts, Samuel Watts, Slick Waltz, Stan Waxman, Malik Waynes, David Ware, Travis Ware, Clearance Weatherspoon, Nick Weatherspoon, Quindary Weatherspoon, Kyle Weaver, James Webb III, Jeff Webb, Marcus Webb, Spud Webb, Chris Webber, Briante Weber, Jake Weber, Leonardo Webster, Jeff Webster, Martell Webster, Marvin Webster, Scott Wedman, Sony Wems, Dick Ware, what? Brant Widener, Bob Wagant, Bob Weiss, Herm Weiss, Rick Weitzman, Bonzi Wells, Bubba Wells, Owen Wells, Ralph Wells, Chris Welp, love that name, Jeff Welsh, Thomas Welsh, Bill Wennington, Matt Wenstrom, Robert Worden, Ray Wordis, David Wesley, Walt Wesley, David West, Lante West, Doug West, Jerry West, Mario West, Mark West, Roland West, Dexter Westbrook, Russell Westbrook, Paul Westfall, John Wetzel, Robert Whaley, Ennis Waltley, Dejan Wheat, Clinton Wheeler, Tyson Wheeler, Skippy Whitaker, Andrew White, Kobe White, DJ White, Dean White, Derek White, Eric White, Herb White, Hubie White, Jandy White, James White, Jojo White, Akari White, Randy White, Rodney White, Rory White, Royce Wright, Rudy Wright, Tony White, Willie White, Isaiah Whitehead, Jerome Whitehead, Donald Whiteside, Hassan Whiteside, Dwayne Whitfield, Warren Whitlinger, Charles Whitney, Chris Whitney, Hank Whitney, Greg Whittington, Shane Whittington, Sidney Wicks, Ron Whitby, Paul Widowitz, Murray Wire, Bob Weissenhan, Joe Wiscomp, John Weath, Aaron Wiggins, Andrew Wiggins, John Wiggins, Mitchell Wiggins, Linda Wigington, Ken Wilburn, CJ Wilcox. Halfway done the W's, baby. Let's go. Chris Wilcox, DC Wilcutt, Gene Wiley, Jacob Wiley, Michael Wiley, Morlon Wiley, Win Wilfong, Lenny Wilkins, Bob Wilkerson, Jamal Wilkes, James Wilkes, Damian Wilkins, Dominic Wilkins, Eddie Lee Wilkins, Gerald Wilkins, Jeff Wilkins, Russell Wilkins, Dale Wilkinson, Mike Wilkes, Aaron Williams, Al Williams, Alan Williams, Alvin Williams, Art Williams, Bernie Williams, Bob Williams, Brandon Williams, Buck Williams, Charlie Williams, Chuck Williams, Chucky Williams, CJ Williams, Cliff Williams, Corey Williams, Dave Williams, Darren Williams, Derek Williams, Duck Williams, Earl Williams, Elliot Williams, Eric Williams, Fly Williams, Frank Williams, Freeman Williams, Gene Williams, Grant Williams, Gus Williams, Guy Williams, Hank Williams, Herb Williams, Jason Williams, Jawad Williams, Jay Williams, Jason Williams, Jerome Williams, John Hot Rod Williams, John Williams, Jonathan Williams, Jordan Williams, Justin Williams, Kenny Williams, Kenrick Williams, Kevin Williams, Renzo Williams, Lou Williams, Marcus Williams, Mervyn Williams, Matt Williams, Michael Williams, Mike Williams, Milt Williams, Mo Williams, Monty Williams, Nate Williams, Patrick Williams, Pete Williams, Ray Williams, Reggie Williams, Ricky Williams, Rob Williams, Robert Williams, Ron Williams, Sam Williams, Scott Williamson, Shimon Williams, Swain Williams, Sheldon Williams, Sly Williams, Terrence Williams, Travis Williams, Walt Williams, Ward Williams, Willie Williams, Zaire Williams, Nigel Williams, Goss, Corliss Williamson, John Williamson, Zion Williamson, Van Williford, Kevin Willis. Oh my gosh, I feel like my facial hair grew, but I feel like, yeah, my facial hair grew a little bit since I started. Kevin Willis, Bill Willoughby, Dedrick Willoughby, Bob Wilson, Bobby Wilson, Bubba Wilson, DJ Wilson, George Wilson, Harlan Wilson, Isaiah Wilson, Jamil Wilson, Jamil Wilson, Jasper Wilson, Jim Wilson, Mike Wilson, Nitika Wilson, Othel Wilson, Rick Wilson, Ricky Wilson, Stevie Wilson, Trevor Wilson, Kyle Widger, Kennard Winchester, Tony Windis, Dylan Windler, John Windler, Lee Winfield, David Wingate, Antonio Wingfield, Harthorne Wingo, Marv Winkler, Justice Winslow, Ricky Winslow, Cassius Winston, Trevor Winter, Slim Wintermoot, Brian Winters, Voice Winters, Eddie Winsbar, Skip Wise, Willie Wise, James Wiseman, Herm Whittasek, Jeff Withy, Luke Witt, Greg Whitman, Randy Whitman, Gary Witz, Ko Winorowski, Dave Wool, Joe Wolf, Ruben Wolkowski, Eddie Wolin, Nate Walters, Tarzan Wilson, Al Wood, Bob Wood, Christian Wood, David Wood, Howard Wood, Leon Wood, Sony Wood, Robert Woodard II, John Wooden, Lauren Woods, Quinnen Woods, Randy Woods, Tommy Wood, Mike Woodston, Bob Willard, Orlando Woolridge, Haywood Workman, Mark Workman, Tom Workman, Metaworld Peace, Willie Worsley, Sam Worthen, James Worthy, Antoine Wright, Bracey White, Brad White, Brandon White, Chris Wright, Dylan Wright, Dora Wright, Howard Wright, Howie Wright, Joby Wright, John Wright, Julian Wright, Larry Wright, Leroy Wright, Lonnie Wright, Lauren Wright, Lorenzen Wright, Luther Wright, McKinley Wright the fourth. Wow, that's a record. Moses Wright, Sharon Wright, Justin Wright Foreman, Tony Roten, Tom Wukovitz, Dennis Wojcik, AJ Widener. That's it for the W's, baby. Now we're on to the Y's. Oh my gosh, there's no X's. Oh my gosh, we're almost there. Ah! I can see the light! I'm choking on dry air. Alright, here we go, baby. We're almost done. Letter Y. I don't believe there's any X's. Yeah. Alright, here we go. Drayshawn Yabuseli, Yao Ming, Barry Yates, Wayne Yates, Vincent Yarbor, George Yardley, Charlie Yelberton, Paul Yasowich, Yi John Leon, Rich Yonaker, Gabe York, Nick Yost, Danny Young, James Young, Joel Young, Joe Young, Corleone Young, Michael Young, Nick Young, Perry Young, Sam Young, Thaddeus Young, Tim Young, Trey Young is balding, Willis Young, Abe Yorist, Omer Yurt 7. Let's go, we're on the Z's. All right, this one is actually going to be the hardest one where I try to do it in one breath. One breath challenge to end it. Here we go. Closing in on 2 hours in a few minutes. Here we go. Letter Z. Stan Zadell, Max Zaslowski, Zeke Zawula, Cody Zeller, Dave Zeller, Gary Zeller, Harry Zeller, Luke Zeller, Tyler Zeller, Tony Zeno, Jim Sarovich, Phil Zevin Bergen, Zalchi, George Zedek, Babe Zeigenhorn, Derek Zimmerman, Steven Zimmerman, Paul Zipser, Ante Sizic, Jim Zoit, Bill Zopes, Ibaka Zubac, and Matt Zunich. Let's go! I'm done! Oh my gosh. 2 hours of my life I will never get back. Ugh. Oh, alright, thanks for watching. I almost just fell asleep. See you guys.